Under a searing red sky, a ruined city burns, announcing that the world has fallen. Amidst the desolation, a lone crow perches on a barren branch, watching the city burn. The once vibrant city is now a dark graveyard, where the dead walk and mutated rats feast on corpses. A lone warrior stands triumphant over a fallen enemy, surrounded by flames and the bodies of the vanquished. Clenching his staff, a man with purple-streaked hair seethes with unforgivable rage, questioning why this happened. His face contorted in agony, he screams into the void, demanding to know why everything was destroyed. The man he defeated, a brown-haired man, lies impaled and lifeless, the source of his all-consuming hatred. An inner voice roars with fury, unable to forgive the one who destroyed his world. A voice from the light commends the solemn man for his great deed, addressing him as metahuman Lee Shin-yuk. Lee Shin-yuk looks up as a divine, blonde-haired woman descends in a shower of golden light, and he whispers her name, Vega. Vega, the goddess of harps, confirms his victory, telling him he has killed the heavenly demon and saved the world. Kneeling in the ruins of his world, Lee Shin-yuk scoffs at her words, questioning if this can truly be called saving anything. He erupts in fury, screaming at Vega and demanding to know how this utter destruction could possibly be considered salvation. He remembers the blood-soaked face of a fallen comrade, declaring that everything died at the hands of that monster. He recalls a time before the fall, when mysterious gates to another world suddenly appeared across the sky. From these gates, unknown monsters swarmed forth, invading their world. The world was plunged into a living hell, where a colossal, tentacled beast terrorized a small girl clutching a teddy bear. As monsters overran more than half the world, the terrified girl could only look on in despair. But then a new power emerged, as transcendent beings known as constellations appeared. These beings bestowed their stigma upon humanity, granting them the power to fight monsters and giving birth to the star-enlightened people. Empowered by the constellations, these individuals became known as metahumans. The metahumans became a symbol of hope for humanity, and it seemed the world finally had a chance to reclaim the light. But that hope was shattered when he appeared. A new, terrifying figure emerged, Ojin, the heavenly demon. Once a normal metahuman, he also possessed the power of the black heavens, allowing him to absorb the very constellations themselves. To defeat this immense threat, thousands of metahumans and even rival constellations joined forces. But the heavenly demon was too powerful, single-handedly shredding their forces and devouring the constellations. Lee Shin-yuk remembers everyone, the kind apostles, brave warriors, and noble constellations. All of them were lost. With everyone dead at the monster's hands, Earth became the desolate star of the end. Vega's voice cuts through his memory, reminding him that in the end, the heavenly demon also died. She confirms that he, Lee Shin-yuk, was the one who killed the demon, but he remains kneeling in despair. A path to hope appears, the Star of Oaths, a power of the North Star constellations that can grant any wish, igniting an idea in Lee Shin-yuk. Lee Shin-yuk stands, his aura flaring, and makes his one request, to be sent back into the past. Vega is stunned, realizing with shock that his impossible wish is to regress. She questions his desire to relive such a grim history, but Lee Shin-yuk fiercely declares that this time will be different. He proclaims himself the one who will defy the world's fate, vowing that he will be the one to change it. Vega listens in silence, her expression unreadable as she considers his unwavering determination. She agrees to send him back, but mentions one more thing, which Lee Shin-yuk clarifies is not a wish, but a proposal. Lee Shin-yuk shocks Vega by asking her to bestow upon him the stigma of the Vega star. Vega furiously rejects the idea, shouting that no human can withstand her stigma, not even the heavenly demon himself. She insists that he would be no different, but he calmly counters that if he can't even accomplish that, there's no point in returning to the past. Her anger gives way to contemplation as she stares at him, weighing his resolve. Vega relents, promising to bestow her stigma upon him and personally find him the moment he returns to the past. Lee Shin-yuk is stunned by her offer, but Vega adds a devastating condition. He will lose all his memories. Vega admits that she, too, might lose her memories of this timeline. However, she reveals that her stigma will act as a beacon, allowing her past self to recognize him as a regressor. Furthermore, she promises that if he can successfully withstand her power, her past self will accept him as her disciple. The realization hits him. He has the chance to become a disciple of the Vega star, a dream coveted by countless metahumans. He looks down one last time at the lifeless body of the heavenly demon, his resolve hardening. In his mind, he makes a final burning vow to kill the man who destroyed his life with his own hands. Her golden aura flaring, Vega declares she will now exercise the oath. Floating amidst golden gears of time, Vega bids farewell to the unheavenly star, warning him to be careful. As his consciousness travels through time, Lee Shin-yuk remembers the things he had lost. He recalls the people and the world he had failed to protect. He relives the numerous regrets that have haunted him over and over again. An orb of brilliant golden energy represents his soul traveling to the past. He makes a final, determined vow that this time he will change everything. A system notification announces that metahuman Lee Shin-hyuk's body has been bestowed with the Vega star's stigma. As he falls through a digital void, system warnings flash. His old stigma is gone, the new one is too powerful, and his physical body is falling apart. A fragmented memory surfaces of a bloodied arm as a desperate voice screams for someone named Woo-yuk. In a flashback, a younger black-haired man kneels in agony, questioning why this happened and what his brother did to deserve his fate. A demonic-looking man with a glowing purple eye blames an unseen person, stating this tragedy wouldn't have occurred if he hadn't been abandoned. In the void, a thought surfaces, recognizing the familiarity of that face. In a new, younger body, Lee Shin-hyuk feels a flash of recognition before a system warning declares he has entered a state of energy deviation. He collapses in agony, writhing as overwhelming blue energy tears through his body. A voice from nearby questions his sudden, violent reaction. Lee Shin-hyuk looks up to see another young man with black hair leaning over him with a concerned expression. The concerned man asks if he's all right, but Lee Shin-hyuk's perception flashes to a distorted, doll-like face with stitches over its mouth. He stares in disbelief, realizing the young man before him is the heavenly demon who has somehow appeared right in front of him. His eyes begin to bleed as a system notification confirms his emotional shock has worsened the energy deviation. As his body disintegrates, system warnings declare the Vega star's stigma has gone berserk, and his life is in critical condition, but he tries to resist. Vega's voice echoes, stating that the chance of surviving this process is less than 1 in 10,000. Lee Shin-hyuk realizes with despair that he failed to become that one infinitesimal probability. A system window announces that metahuman Lee Shin-hyuk has died, leaving the other young man staring in shock at his lifeless body. The young man finds himself surrounded by a massive pack of shadowy, wolf-like monsters. Panicked, he realizes he isn't a metahuman and has no way to fight back as the beasts close in. Cursing the timing of Lee Shin-hyuk's death, he desperately begins searching the body for anything that might help him survive. He touches the body and discovers a strange, glowing stigma on the skin. Wondering what it is, System Window suddenly appears, announcing the beginning of the Black Heaven's first enlightenment, leaving him utterly confused. He is stunned as the system reveals the Black Heavens have absorbed the stigma of the Vega star, a term he has never heard before. Gah! The young man screams as the power of the absorbed stigma surges violently through his body. He writhes in agony, but the system announces the stigma's overwhelming power is being adjusted to match the enlightenment star of the Black Heavens. His mind screams in pure agony from the excruciating pain. The ordeal finally ends, leaving him gasping on the ground, questioning if the hellish experience is truly over. System windows confirm the Vega star stigma has been completely absorbed and its power successfully adjusted, much to his shock. He stares at the system window, confused, wondering why he can see something that should only be visible to metahumans. Now calm, he sits by a crackling campfire, the new energy settled within him. A divine figure with long white hair descends behind him. Vega has arrived, having tracked the power of her own stigma to this location. She looks down at the young man, realizing with surprise that he possesses her stigma, which she has never bestowed upon anyone. She identifies him as the unheavenly star, the one prophesied to go against fate and save a doomed world. Vega confronts him directly, asking if he is the regressor, leaving the greenish-tinged, dark-haired young man completely bewildered. He can only react with a comically stunned expression, asking, "What?" He instinctively denies being a regressor as a brilliant pillar of golden light envelops him. Still utterly confused by her words, he wonders what on earth she is talking about. The scene shifts to a flashback of a younger, black-haired boy standing silently in a dimly lit room. An older, balding man instructs the young boy, Ojin, that the easiest way to fool people is to show and tell them what they want to believe. The man smiles smugly, asking the boy if he thinks he can do it. The flashback is interrupted by a memory of the young boy Ojin clutching his head, screaming in pain. Standing over the collapsed boy, the older man calmly asks him to repeat, "What is our orphanage like?" In a flashback, a young, disheveled Ojin smirks, finding a good place to start his new life. A young girl protects Ojin from a bald man, striking him in the stomach. The man collapses, cursing the brats, as Ojin watches in confusion. He recalls the smiling face of Song-hin, his only support during his hellish life at the orphanage. He remembers the orphanage director, who appeared kind but secretly abused the children just enough to avoid leaving marks. Filled with grim determination, he vows he won't die a pointless death in such a place. The story shifts to a time when a massive gate opened, unleashing hordes of unknown monsters and turning Earth into a hellscape. In response, powerful constellations appeared, granting stigmas and creating the first metahumans. The narration explains that survival became much easier for those who could blend in among them. In the present, a smiling, red-haired man pats Ojin on the head, congratulating him as Jin-O and asking him to join the next gate raid. With glowing purple eyes and a sly grin, Ojin confidently agrees, his intentions hidden. He recalls how he deceived metahumans in the past, taking all the gains for himself. A man named Lee Shinyuk of Pixis is stunned, questioning if someone is truly the disciple of Aquarius, one of the 12 astrological signs. Ojin, identified as a non-metahuman, internally scoffs that even a zodiac disciple is only a 1 star. He declares that he became the perfect con man. Ojin speaks with Lee Shinyuk, humbly claiming to be a disciple of Pixis and nothing special. Lee is amazed by the supposed power of his stigma. Feigning modesty, Ojin internally celebrates, thinking he has successfully hooked his target. Introducing himself with the fake name Kwon Jin-O, he proposes that they form a party, calling it fate. Lee Shinyuk agrees but seems confused, asking why Ojin would want to party with him. In a cute chibi-style scene, Ojin claims he's still a 1 star because he's bad at using his stigma, an excuse Lee accepts. An explanation describes the class system, a 12-star ranking based on a metahuman's transcendent constellation. Ojin proudly shows off his chest, and Lee marvels, believing he's looking at the stigma of one of the 12 signs. Ojin inwardly reveals the stigma is just a scar. He carved himself as a symbol of his life as a scammer. Standing before a glowing blue gate, Ojin tells Lee he has a good feeling but warns him to be careful, and Lee agrees enthusiastically. As they approach the gate, Ojin offers to cast a buff on Lee Shinyuk before they enter. He theatrically calls on Aquarius, activating a mini LED hidden in his hands to fake a skill. With a flourish, he recites the name of his fake ability, Lake's Aurora, pretending to draw power from the stars. As Ojin scatters fluorescent powder, Lee feels a tingling warmth and believes it's the power of Aquarius. Ojin internally mocks his gullibility, while Lee gratefully offers to show his own skills. Empowered by the fake buff, Lee Shinyuk unleashes a powerful attack. Feeling unexpectedly enlightened and much lighter, Ojin watches, impressed by Lee's skill and happily calculating the money he'll make from the myrrh crystals, while Lee cheers him on. Holding a glowing myrrh crystal, Ojin reaffirms his mission, to secure these power-infusing items for himself. The scene shifts to a dark forest as he reflects that what he thought was a jackpot was anything but. Lee Shinyuk's face contorts in fear as he senses something terribly wrong, calling out to Jin-O. An overwhelming swarm of wolf-like anthorns appears, and Lee stammers in terror at their sheer numbers. Grrr, a close-up reveals the menacing glowing red eyes of an anthorn. This way, Jin-O SSI. Lee screams, leading their desperate escape from the monster pack. As he runs, Ojin finds the situation strange, having never seen so many monsters in a low-ranking gate. The two flee for their lives through the eerily blue-lit forest. Grrr, the relentless pack of anthorns closes in behind them. Lee panics, realizing they're not fast enough to escape the pursuing monsters. Woof! The lightning-wreathed anthorns bark as they surge forward with electrifying speed. Huff, huff, Lee struggles to catch his breath, knowing they're cornered. As they run, Ojin notices Lee's strange expression and realizes with dawning horror what his partner is planning. His eyes widen with pure, unadulterated rage at the impending betrayal. With a furious cry, Ojin punches Lee in the back, sending him stumbling toward the monsters. "I'm sorry," Lee screams in absolute terror as he faces his fate. "You son of a bitch," Ojin bellows, enraged by the betrayal. Grr. Ojin watches from the ground, as Lee is now the sole target of the growling, advancing pack. Lee hysterically screams they'll both die, but Ojin coldly retorts that if he's dying, Lee is coming with him. Crackling with blue energy, Lee offers one last desperate apology as he prepares to unleash his power. Ack! A massive explosion of blue lightning erupts from Lee, engulfing everything around him, including Ojin. What? Ojin is stunned, wondering why the man he's with is suddenly acting this way. Huff, panting in the dark forest, Ojin fears for his life, wondering if his partner has something on him. A hand touches a glowing constellation on a chest, revealing the Lyra stigma, as a voice realizes he wasn't a Pixis. A system window materializes, announcing that the first enlightenment of Black Heavens has started. Amidst a backdrop of glowing celestial gears, a white-haired woman is identified as a regressor. Ojin sits on the ground, watching her and wondering if a regressor is someone who can go back in time. Grr. He dismisses the thought, realizing his immediate future is being torn to pieces by snarling anthorns. The white-haired woman watches him curiously, recalling that she possesses a stigma that no one else has. Clutching his chest, Ojin realizes the strange, new stigma must be Lee Shin-hyuk's. He remembers using the power of Black Heavens to absorb the stigma from Lee Shin-hyuk's dead body. Ojin looks over at the empty patch of ground where his former partner lay. He recalls the flash of blue lightning that erupted from Lee Shin-hyuk, realizing that's when he absorbed the stigma. From that moment on, he thinks, the power of Black Heavens activated and granted him the stigma. The white-haired woman asks if he's a regressor, saying she sensed the unheavenly star. He confirms that he is. Though he doesn't understand what's happening, he resolves to play along with her to survive. Standing with new determination, he decides that to live, he must become a regressor. The white-haired woman considers his declaration with a thoughtful expression. Believing his bluff, she states she knew he was the unheavenly star. Ojin is internally shocked she fell for it. A satisfied grin spreads across his face as he realizes he successfully scammed a godlike being. The woman states her interest in hearing the details of the future he has witnessed. Growl! She gestures toward the growling pack of anthorns, dismissing them as an annoyance. With a bright smile, she says she is looking forward to seeing the limit of the unheavenly star's power. Woof! As the monstrous anthorns bark aggressively, Ojin begins to speak. Damn it, he screams in his mind. The woman repeats that she's looking forward to seeing the power of an unheavenly star. Forcing another smile, Ojin repeats that he will handle it while she tells him to fight, without feeling burdened. Internally, he curses his terrible predicament. Grrr. The horde of robed, wolf-like creatures with glowing blue eyes waits menacingly. Pew. Letting out a breath, Ojin grips his spear and readies himself as a blue aura envelops him. He feels power draining, but his body feels light as a feather, realizing this is the body of a one-star metahuman. He leaps into action, launching himself into the pack of monsters with startling speed. He becomes a blur of motion, carving through the monsters in a bloody arc with his spear. The white-haired woman observes the battle with an intrigued hoe. Mid-fight, Ojin is briefly taken aback by his own fluid combat skill. He's shocked by how easily he's slaughtering the anthorns, thinking it should be impossible. He lands gracefully after dispatching another wave of monsters. Erg. A system window announces he has acquired Pixis's Spear Arts Level 4, and he grits his teeth in pain. He clutches his head, confused about the sudden influx of skill he recognizes as Lee Shin-hyuk's. A memory plays of a brown-haired man with a spear training relentlessly. The man from the memory vows he'll never stop until he catches up with someone named Woo-hyuk. Ojin recognizes Lee Shin-hyuk but sees a scar he's never seen before, realizing this isn't a memory of the past. As Lee's skills and memories flow into him, Ojin continues the fight, questioning if one-star metahumans were always this strong. He stares at the pile of dead monsters, amazed that a one-star could possess such power. Stop, the white-haired woman commands, and Ojin freezes, turning to her with a look of confusion. She looks down at him from above, asking if he's putting on a show for her amusement. A show, Ojin asks, looking up at her with a bewildered expression, spear still in hand. What? The woman asks why he isn't using his stigma, a question that leaves Ojin utterly stunned. He has a shocking epiphany. He just demonstrated all that power without even using the stigma. Ojin, holding a spear, looks up at the glowing, white-haired woman with dawning comprehension. Vega thoughtfully compares his struggle with the new stigma to a child learning to walk, while Ojin realizes she's forming her own conclusions. Seeing an opportunity, Ojin enthusiastically plays along, agreeing he's like a newborn baby, and comically crying out that he's baby Ojin. Vega grins, accepting his act and declaring it her job to help this baby take his first steps. He looks on in happy confusion as a system window announces that Vega has granted him the blessing of a star. A system notification declares that the proficiency of Lyra's stigma will be boosted, and Ojin wonders why the name Vega sounds so familiar. Suddenly, a massive blast of blue lightning erupts from the forest floor as someone screams in agony. Ugh! Ojin clenches his teeth, struggling against the volatile blue energy that crackles violently around him. The shadowy wolves recoil from the overwhelming power as he vows to at least achieve one thing. He strikes a pose with his spear, demanding the chaotic energy give him its power while facing the wolves. He screams in frustration, complaining that he should have received a warning before this agonizing process began. As he yells about the pain, the energy concentrates into his weapon, and his system window announces the activation of Blue Thunder Level 1. He unleashes the power in a massive, ground-shattering explosion of blue electrical energy. Standing in the smoking crater left by his attack, Ojin looks around in utter disbelief, only able to mutter, "Huh." Staring at the desolate landscape, he curses, shocked that his single attack destroyed the entire area. He pauses, a sudden thought making him reconsider the situation. Vega analyzes the immense power he displayed, concluding that a one-star metahuman is incapable of such a feat, and questioning the true nature of Lyra's stigma. She smiles, remarking on his quick learning speed for a regressor, as Ojin wonders about her title, Weaving Woman Star. Vega turns to him, asking if he called her, which sends a jolt of terror through Ojin, as he realizes who she really is. A cosmic view explains that among the countless constellations, a hierarchy of power exists, which dictates a metahuman's strength. The narration identifies the three most powerful constellations, Polaris, Deneb, and Vega herself. Ojin trembles in fear, realizing with dread that one of the most powerful beings in existence is standing right next to him. Vega asks what's wrong, but Ojin can only think to himself that he's completely and utterly screwed. He panics, realizing it's too late to confess his lie, convinced that mocking a god would get him killed instantly. With newfound resolve, he decides he has to see the deception through to the very end. He walks toward Vega, who is surrounded by golden clockwork, and tells her he missed her, leaving her stunned. Taking her hand, he formally introduces himself as Ojin. He continues his act, letting tears fall on her hand as he says he thought he'd never see her again. As he expresses his relief, a flustered Vega pulls her hand away, questioning his actions. Still visibly flustered, she asks him what kind of relationship they are supposed to have in the future. Ojin internally celebrates his success, but quickly reminds himself that she doesn't actually have any memories of him. Under the full moon, he apologizes and dismisses her question, but Vega insists on knowing about their past relationship. Putting on a pained and melancholic expression, Ojin prepares to sell his story of having endured great hardship. Vega deduces that she is destined to be annihilated, and Ojin, caught off guard, agrees, claiming all constellations will be devoured by the darkness of the black heavens. Continuing his act, Ojin somberly agrees that all the constellations will be. Ojin is stunned when Vega sharply asks if he said black heavens, confirming that its master will lead the world to ruin if unchecked. He panics, connecting her words to his own power as a system window announces the first flowering of his black heavens, making him realize he's the future destroyer. Smirking confidently to hide his internal screaming, he boldly declares that he has returned to change that fate. Kneeling before her, Ojin makes a solemn vow, pledging that he will protect her from being devoured by the black heavens. Vega looks down at him, her expression serious and unreadable as she processes his heartfelt declaration. Her hand hovers over him as she names him metahuman Ojin, the unheavenly star destined to defy fate. As she touches his forehead, system notifications announce his appointment as Vega's apostle, and that his black heavens is absorbing mana, fulfilling a condition for its next evolution. He realizes with a jolt that he's now an apostle of Vega, a point of no return. Ojin thinks about Li Xinyuk, rationalizing that what he did was a necessary evil, and asking for his victim's understanding. Vega observes that eliminating future evil is a classic regressor action, and Ojin smugly agrees that only a regressor could do it. As Vega begins to give him one last warning, she grunts in pain, her body suddenly crackling with blue lightning. She explains that the constraints of the commandments have begun to affect her, a term that confuses Ojin. Vega reveals that by blessing him, she violated the commandments that bind her from interfering in the mortal world. Surrounded by her golden aura, she says she is leaving, and instructs him to come to her sanctuary in 1 week. She disappears in a flash of light, promising to continue their talk there, and leaving Ojin alone in the clearing. Slumped on the forest floor, Ojin curses the chaotic turn of events, feeling like he's going insane. He forces a smile, reasoning that gaining the stigma of a powerful North Star constellation isn't entirely a bad outcome. Looking toward Lee Shen-hyuk's corpse, he sarcastically thanks the dead man for this new, complicated life. As his thoughts drift over the lifeless body, a single title echoes in his mind: Mr. Regressor. The scene shifts to a bustling city at night, where an employee at W.C. Donald's cheerfully calls out an order total. Now walking down a quiet alley with a takeout bag, Ojin grumbles to himself about the high price of burgers. He continues his journey home, trudging up a long flight of stairs in a residential neighborhood. Inside, a young woman with long, reddish-brown hair smiles warmly from her bed. He remembers her as his sole support during his hellish life at the orphanage. The woman playfully chides him for being late and asks for a cigarette, and Ojin internally calls her out for joking around. She indignantly asks if he should speak that way to his goddess-like Nuna, while he scoffs at the title. She insists that being 2 years older makes her his Nuna. Ojin offers her the burgers he bought, and she happily thanks him. She eats by the window, as he reflects that he's now the one taking care of her. A flashback shows them as children in the orphanage, their persistent bond carrying on long after they left. Back in the present, she holds the burger and asks what it is, prompting a confused "what?" from Ojin. Her eyes sparkle with delight as she exclaims how good it tastes. He explains it's from a real restaurant. Shocked by the expensive gift, she panics, asking if he's hurt or if a monster hit him. Ojin looks away, beginning to explain his reason. He thinks to himself that he needed to earn more money for something he had to buy. She looks at him, still confused by his strange behavior, a small crumb on her cheek. He points out the sauce on her mouth, causing her to panic and ask if it's true. As she frantically asks where the sauce is, he just laughs and teases that she's ugly either way, so she should just eat. He promises to buy her expensive burgers from now on, and she mutters about the name of the meal and something that happened on his way back. The scene shows them sitting apart in the quiet room, a gulf of unspoken words between them. The two stare at each other in tense silence until Ojin finally confirms her suspicions with a simple, "yeah." He looks her in the eye and makes a stunning confession: "I became a metahuman." Shocked into silence, she whispers, "What?" as her drink slips from her hand, crashing to the floor. Later that night, Ojin sits alone on a playground swing, sighing that he finally has a moment to himself. He looks up at the moon, exhausted after the long explanation he had to give her. He frets over how to explain his full situation as a memory of her frantic questioning flashes through his mind. Lying back on the swing, he decides to organize his thoughts, summoning a glowing blue system window. He reviews his innate ability, Black Heavens, noting its powers of absorption and inheritance, and that Lyra's stigma is now his. He knows the power belonged to Lee Shen-hyuk before him. He recalls Vega's prophecy, realizing with dawning horror that he is the one destined to bring the world to ruin. Clutching his head in anguish, he desperately wonders what truly happened to him in his supposed first life. His expression hardens with resolve. He knows he can't get caught, or his entire lie will be exposed. He stares at the system window, questioning why he was ever given such a dangerous power. Pushing his existential dread aside, he focuses on the most pressing question: what do I do now? He lies back, pondering how he can successfully act the part of a regressor. He concludes his first step is to earn Vega's trust by raising the star level of Lyra's stigma. Feeling the mana glowing in his chest, he knows all that's left is to master its control. Getting up from the swing, he decides to head home and sleep on it. Abnormality outbreak. Mutant monsters at the very gate he just left. His eyes glow intently as he considers the mutants, understanding that the swarming monsters were a sign of this. A diagram of spiders illustrates that while some mutants are weaker, they are typically far stronger than their originals. He thinks back to the forest, realizing he was too busy surviving to have noticed any mutants among the wolves. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he looks at his phone. His next destination is decided. The next day, the entrance to the gate is crowded, with metahumans shouting to form parties to hunt the lucrative mutants. Ojin walks through the woods alone, noting the large crowd drawn by the promise of valuable mutant crystals despite the danger. He briefly considers joining a party but dismisses the idea, confident he can handle the mutants alone and wanting all the profit for himself. Standing determinedly on a path shrouded in mist, he readies his spear and sets off. With his spear slung over his shoulder, Ojin steps deeper into the dark, moonlit forest. Alerted by a rustle, he turns to see several pairs of glowing red eyes staring at him from the shadows. An intimidating growl echoes through the woods, signaling the start of a fight. A pack of vicious gray wolves leaps from the darkness, pouncing on him. One wolf lunges forward, snarling as it closes in for the kill. With a swift move, Ojin slams the butt of his spear down, pinning the surprised wolf to the ground. As another wolf lunges with its jaw wide open, Ojin meets its attack with cold indifference. He effortlessly stops the beast with his spear, taunting it for coming at him so recklessly. With a powerful smash, he slams the wolf into the forest floor, its body beginning to dissipate. Enraged, Ojin screams that they need to pay the price for their attack. He hurls the wolf's body like a projectile at the rest of the pack, daring them to come at him. The remaining wolves halt their advance, stunned by his display of brute force. Ojin looks at his hand in surprise, realizing his physical specs are far beyond a typical one-star metahuman. He reflects on the weight of the Anthorn wolves, knowing it shouldn't be possible to throw one with a single hand. Crouching over the dead wolves, he eagerly wonders how much their loot is worth. He pulls a sparkling, light blue mercrystal from one of the Anthorns. Grinning, he estimates the crystal's high value, understanding now why everyone wants to be a metahuman. Continuing his hunt, Ojin drags a fresh kill behind him as he moves deeper into the woods. He smirks, taunting an unseen foe for being drawn in by the scent of blood. An enormous horned wolf with menacing red eyes emerges from the shadows. Ojin turns, facing the powerful new monster and its lurking pack. The beast lets out a low growl, its glowing red eyes identifying it as a mutant. Ojin smirks, intrigued by the unexpected encounter. He taunts the mutant for its direct charge, questioning if mutating made it lose its sense of fear. With his eyes glowing blue, Ojin accepts the challenge, and a system window announces the activation of Thunderbolt Level 1. He hurls his spear, which flies through the air crackling with powerful blue lightning. A massive explosion of electrical energy engulfs the mutant. Ojin turns back, his expression one of pure shock, as he asks, "Huh?" He stares in disbelief, realizing the powerful mutant died in a single hit. As the mutant's body disintegrates, he stands amazed that his attack actually worked. The remaining wolves turn and flee in terror, but Ojin shouts after them to leave their myrrh crystals behind. A system window suddenly appears, announcing that Lyra's stigma has leveled up to 2-star. Surprised by the rapid growth, he feels a new surge of power coursing through him. Deciding he's done enough for now, Ojin kneels to harvest the mutant's remains before heading back. A voice from behind him expresses surprise that he captured a mutant. Two men appear, complimenting his skill and introducing themselves as 3-star disciples of the Canes Venatici. Ojin is immediately suspicious, wondering why high-ranking 3-stars would be in such a low-level gate. He analyzes their smug faces, thinking they look more like thieves than respectable metahumans. The two men approach, one commenting on losing track of some guys, confirming Ojin's suspicion that they're a pair of thieves. The two men exchange a sinister, knowing glance. With a determined look, Ojin decides he has no choice but to act. He suddenly drops to his knees, feigning terror and apologizing profusely, leaving the two men bewildered. With fake tears streaming down his face, he frantically offers to give them all his loot. The blonde-haired man smirks, pleased that Ojin seems to understand the situation so quickly. He gestures for Ojin to follow them so they can talk as Ojin bows his head. In a flash, a blue blade erupts from the blonde-haired man's chest, who gasps in shock. Ojin looks up with a vicious grin, telling the dying man to send his regards to his mother in hell. The second man watches in stunned silence as his companion coughs up blood, unable to comprehend what just happened. Snapping out of his shock, The remaining thief screams in fury and charges at Ojin with his spear. The thief realizes too late that Ojin was hiding his skills, amazed by his unbelievable speed. Looking down with a cold smile, Ojin mocks his fallen foes, telling them they aren't strong, just idiots. A massive burst of blue lightning electrocutes the charging thief, who lets out a final, agonized scream, Kuog. Ojin breathes a sigh of relief, glad that it's finally quiet again. Grinning happily, he declares that it's time to get back to farming. Kneeling over a dead thief, he notices a faint blue glow and remembers that his Black Heaven's ability is supposed to get stronger by absorbing stigmas. Looking intrigued, he wonders aloud if he should give it a try. A vision of Vega appears, warning that it would be bad if he were found out, but reassures him that one of the traits of Black Heavens is the Black Curtain, which can conceal his actions. He places his hand on the thief's glowing stigma and resolutely says, "All right." Blue lightning crackles from his hand as he begins to absorb the stigma's power. Black Heavens is absorbing the Cain's Venatici stigma, has met the requirements for its second level, and is beginning its second enlightenment. Ojin convulses as immense blue power surges through him, his eyes glowing intensely. He screams in unbearable pain as the power overload courses through his body. A system window notifies him that it is reading the records of Lyra's stigma, but the enlightenment level is too low to access much information. Another window appears, announcing that he is recalling the restricted records of the awakened Lee Shin-yuk. The scene shifts to a memory, where a bandaged man lies in a bed looking up at a man in a white lab coat, wondering where he is. The man in the coat informs the patient, Lee Shin-yuk, that he's in the hospital and has been unconscious for 2 weeks, much to his shock. The man, Woo-yuk, asks his Hyung why he entered a gate without telling anyone. Lee Shin-hyuk apologizes, saying he underestimated the one-star gate. In the quiet hospital room, Woo-yuk continues to question the injured Lee Shin-hyuk. A woman with glasses and a ponytail enters, asking the guildmaster if he has time, and he asks what she needs. She briefs them on a situation, prompting the guildmaster to ask if Chung Yoon was involved, to which he replies yes. The memory becomes distorted and glitchy, as the woman mentions that something Chung Yoon said was a bit strange. Oak! Ojin gasps for air, snapping back to reality from the intense flashback. A system window confirms he has inherited Lee Shin-hyuk's partial records, leveling up his Pixis' spear arts and teaching him lame excuses level 2. Ojin ponders if he'll get more of Lee Shin-hyuk's memories with more enlightenment, then wonders what lame excuses even is. Catching his breath, he recalls the information he just gained about a new gate in Mokdong and something else important. The key piece of information flashes in his mind: a holy relic. An image of a golden chalice, a spear, and a skull explains that holy relics are artifacts containing the concentrated power of the stars. He realizes that some relics are powerful enough to bridge the gap between 1-star and 2-star awakeners, summarizing that a holy relic will appear in a Mokdong gate in 8 days. A wicked smile spreads across his face as he thinks about the great information he just acquired, and the possibilities it opens up. He looks down with a cunning glint in his eye, realizing he can use this knowledge to his advantage in more ways than one. The scene shifts to a modern, glass-paneled skyscraper. At a reception desk, a female employee informs Ojin that his Myrrh crystals sold for 1,440,000 won, which is 1,152,000 after tax. He mutters fuck under his breath, and when the clerk asks him to repeat himself, he quickly says it was nothing. He internally screams about the 20% tax, imagining himself celebrating like a soccer player while yelling about being robbed. Sighing in resignation, he admits to himself that it's not as bad as it could have been. The clerk asks which constellation he's associated with, and when he answers Lyra, she repeats the name, confused. The clerk looks up in shock, apologizing and asking him to repeat himself. Leaning over the counter in disbelief, she frantically asks which constellation he just named. Annoyed, Ojin flatly repeats Lyra, spelling it out for her. The flustered clerk gasps in shock. He impatiently asks her to hurry up, and she stammers an apology and agrees. As he walks away, Ojin considers acting weak for his own convenience, but quickly decides that would be a stupid move. He reaffirms his decision with a determined expression, knowing that fame is power. He enters a lounge, his sudden appearance startling a man relaxing on a couch. The blonde-haired man on the couch turns around irritably and asks, "What?" The man glares at Ojin, aggressively asking what he's looking at and ordering him to look down. Ojin gives him an unimpressed look, internally wondering who the hell this guy is. The blonde man returns his glare with a piercing, silent stare. Ojin decides to ignore him, assuming he's just there for the registration exam, and walks past a table of snacks. He freezes, suddenly recognizing the spread as desserts that are only prepared for VIPs. Drooling, he stares at the free, luxurious food, remembering how jealous he was of the rich people who ate such things when he was just a scammer. Overwhelmed by the luxurious VIP snacks, Ojin decides he can't hold back and wonders how much it all costs as he happily eats. The blonde-haired man watches him, as Ojin internally marvels at how delicious the free food is. He happily decides to pack the leftovers, thinking his Nuna will be thrilled. An aggressive voice from off-screen calls him a beggar, causing Ojin to look up in surprise. Ojin and the blonde-haired man stare at each other in silence across the lounge. The blonde man expresses his annoyance, complaining that Ojin's lip-smacking is ruining his appetite. Ojin turns the tables with a relaxed posture, leaving the blonde man confused but thinking he's daring. With a condescending smile, Ojin says it's good to see energetic youngins acting so recklessly. The blonde man asks who Ojin is, but Ojin retorts by asking if the child knows who he is. Laughing, Ojin remarks on what happens when he isn't active, leaving the blonde man baffled. He leans forward with a cunning smirk, suggesting that anyone in the VIP room should know who he is. Flustered and angry, the blonde-haired man wonders what is wrong with this bastard. Staring at Ojin's unnerving smile, the blonde man internally questions his identity. The blonde man considers Ojin's confident demeanor and elderly way of speaking, concluding he must be a well-known figure. He has a sudden realization, recalling that high-level metahumans can sometimes have their bodies become younger. Realizing Ojin must also be a VIP, the blonde man decides to ask which guild he belongs to. Before Ojin can answer, the blonde man nervously corrects his own informal speech, showing sudden deference. Ojin leans back nonchalantly and asks, "Huh?" further unsettling the now anxious blonde man. With a menacing glare, Ojin points out that the blonde man has been speaking informally, shocking him. The blonde-haired man leaps to his feet and bows deeply, introducing himself as Park Jung-woo of the Pandinas Guild, and panicking internally. Ojin recognizes the Pandinas Guild as a top-tier organization and connects it to someone named Chen Yuk. When Park Jung-woo asks if he knows Chen Yuk, Ojin cheerfully lies, claiming they were once close enough to go to saunas together. Park Jung-woo is stunned by the mention of saunas, while Ojin smugly muses about the young bastard becoming a guild master. Ojin asks Park Jung-woo to pass on his regards to Chen Yuk, and the nervous man asks who he should say is calling. With a cool expression, Ojin reveals the name he's using, Kwonjin-oh, leaving Park Jung-woo speechless. Park Jung-woo stands frozen in shock, while Ojin relaxes, his plan having worked perfectly. Ojin smirks to himself, thinking that after years as a scammer, fooling someone like Park Jung-woo is easy. Ojin magnanimously tells him not to worry, but Park Jung-woo frantically insists he's made a terrible mistake. Shouting, Park Jung-woo desperately promises to do anything Ojin wants. Having gathered all the fridge's refreshments for him, Park Jung-woo is praised by Ojin, who thinks his Nuna will be so surprised. Park Jung-woo attempts to leave, but Ojin stops him with a questioning look. Ojin asks about the registration exam, but Park Jung-woo makes an excuse that he isn't feeling well and quickly leaves. Ojin smirks, satisfied that he's successfully chased away the nuisance. He pulls out Park Jung-woo's wallet, which he pickpocketed, and grins maniacally as he finds a lot of cash. While looking through the wallet, he stops, surprised by an unexpected item inside. He pulls out a dark, faceted crystal, identifying it as a mutant's myrrh crystal and wondering why it's there. He sits and contemplates the extreme rarity of mutants and their valuable crystals. He questions why such a rare item would be found in Park Jung-woo's wallet. A sudden sound at the door interrupts his thoughts, and he looks over, startled. A well-built, dark-haired man introduces himself as Han Junman, a team leader, and asks if he is Kwon Ojin, the wielder of Lyra's stigma. Ojin confirms his identity and shakes Han Junman's hand, internally noting his impressive physique. He senses an immense power from Han Junman, realizing he is far stronger than Park Jung-woo. Ojin asks for Han Junman's constellation. He reveals he is a powerful 6-star Taurus metahuman, leaving Ojin in awe. Han Junman pauses for a moment, observing Ojin quietly. He then bluntly asks if it's true that Ojin possesses Lyra's stigma, making Ojin flinch. Reading the doubt on Han Junman's face, Ojin realizes he is not believed. To prove his claim, Ojin declares he's the first to receive Vega's stigma and lifts his shirt, revealing the glowing blue symbol. Han Junman studies the glowing stigma, considering the proof presented before him. He offers to conduct the registration exam himself, and Ojin is surprised by the high-ranking team leader's personal offer. Ojin stares back with a deadpan expression, processing the unexpected turn of events. Han Junman agrees to let Ojin use his own weapon for the exam. In a large training room, Ojin confirms he can use his real spear, and Han Junman, now in boxing gloves, happily agrees. Ojin clutches his spear, feeling the pressure as he prepares to face a 6-star metahuman. With a nervous sweat drop, Ojin admits to himself that he's curious about the outcome. As they face off, Ojin wonders if even Lyra's stigma can bridge the 4-star power gap against a metahuman of the 12 astrological signs. Han Yunman taps his foot, trailing off as he anticipates the fight. Pow! Ojin makes the first move, leaping into the air with his spear to strike. Crackle Ojin becomes a blur of motion, enveloped in brilliant blue lightning as he attacks. Han Yunman braces for impact, shocked that a 2-star metahuman can wield such power. The lightning-infused spear clashes against Han Yunman's guard with a flash of energy. Bam! The force of the collision sends Ojin flying backward, crashing to the ground. Q. Leaning on his spear, Ojin struggles to his feet, admitting the power he just faced was insane. Han Yunman rushes to Ojin's side, asking if he's okay, but Ojin insists he's alright and wants to continue. With a determined look, Ojin gets into a fighting stance and declares he's still able to fight, surprising Han Yunman. As his stigma glows, Ojin realizes his opponent is on another level, and that simple thrusts won't be enough. Han Junman readies himself, deciding to get serious. Ojin lunges forward again, unleashing an even greater torrent of blue lightning. Han Junman skillfully deflects the spear with his forearm. Ojin pivots off the block, vaulting over his opponent as Han Junman realizes he's using his own strength against him. Now behind his opponent, Ojin prepares a new attack, catching the shocked Han Junman off guard. Han Junman cries out as Ojin lands a direct hit, engulfing them both in crackling electricity. Feeling a surge of power, Ojin pushes his limits as a system window announces his lightning skill has leveled up to LV2. Gah! Ojin unleashes a massive burst of electrical energy from his spear. Straining against the attack, Han Junman is shocked by Ojin's power. Crackling with blue energy, Ojin prepares to strike again with his spear held high. Han Yunman grits his teeth as the Taurus constellation, his own stigma, begins glowing on his chest. The two clash again in a blinding explosion of power. Massive flash of light erupts as Han Yunman is hit. Ojin's face is a blur as he is violently thrown backward from the impact. In the darkness, Ojin realizes with a jolt that he used too much strength. Ojin lies unconscious amid a cloud of smoke and rubble. Han Junman shouts Ojin's name and frantically calls for a medic. Han Junman carefully pours a glowing blue potion into Ojin's mouth. With a soft glow, Ojin sits up, healed. Han Yunman expresses his profound relief, and Ojin agrees, admitting he was shocked. Ojin stares at the now empty bottle, realizing the potion must have cost at least 10 million won. Han Junman turns away, bowing and profusely apologizing, insisting the outcome was his fault. Ojin smiles reassuringly, saying it's all right, and thinking he's satisfied just to have pushed a 6-star to use his stigma. Han Junman looks on with a newfound respect, realizing Vega Star's apostle is far more incredible than he ever imagined. Han Junman formally addresses Ojin, who looks back with a questioning glance. After apologizing for his earlier mistake, Han Yunman nervously asks for a moment of Ojin's time. Now seated in an office, Ojin listens to the offer, thinking it would certainly be a great help. Sipping his tea, Ojin correctly deduces that Han Junman is trying to recruit him. Ojin internally debates his future, acknowledging his value as a North Star's apostle but preferring the freedom of a mercenary, especially since he doesn't know how to become a regressor yet. As Ojin rises, Han Junman looks up, taken aback by the sudden movement. Han Junman offers a surprising deal, a monthly salary without any work obligations, though he admits the pay is less than large guilds offer. Stunned, Ojin asks what he means, internally shouting with glee at the prospect of getting paid to do nothing. Han Junmin explains Ojin would belong to the association in name only, leaving him free to pursue mercenary work as he pleases. Ojin's eyes widen with a greedy glint as he realizes this offer is a total jackpot. He fantasizes about lazing on piles of cash, laughing about being paid like a landlord, and not having to share his earnings with the association. Deciding to play it cool, Ojin clears his throat and tells Han Yunmin he needs time to think, not wanting to seem too eager. Ojin reflects on having lived like a dog his whole life, declaring that is no longer the case. With a confident smirk, Ojin relishes his new path. Han Junmin reveals the final shocking perk of the deal. Ojin will be excused from paying taxes. Rough Ojin hilariously imagines himself as a rabid dog, overjoyed at being tax-exempt, leaving Han Junmin bewildered. Returning to a serious demeanor, Ojin declares he'll live as a dog for the association and formally agrees to work with Han Junmin. The scene shifts to a bright, clear day on a city street. Ojin walks purposefully down the sidewalk, heading toward his destination. He recalls the celestial woman's words to find her in a week and nervously admits that despite his preparations, he's anxious. Ojin pauses, a thoughtful question lingering in his mind. He watches a crowd of desperate people praying, begging a great constellation to bestow its power upon them. Ojin stands back, silently observing the crowd's murmuring prayers. He reflects that in these trying times, becoming a metahuman is one of the only ways for people to survive. A colossal pillar of blue light erupts nearby, and Ojin marvels at its size, wondering about the hundreds of others across the world. Deciding to proceed, Ojin prepares to enter the radiant pillar of energy. He is pulled into the swirling blue light, his body dissolving into particles. Ojin arrives in a magnificent sanctum, a celestial space filled with golden, star-like energy. He admires a beautiful tree made of light that resembles the Milky Way and resolves to find Vega. As he steps forward, a woman with long white hair appears before him, surrounded by glowing golden gears. The white-haired woman stares at him with an intense, unreadable expression. She addresses him as Regressor, confirming that he has arrived. With his eyes closed, Ojin emotionally begins to speak. Ojin opens his eyes and tells the woman Vega that he has really missed her. He quickly retracts his statement, apologizing for the outburst, while internally coaching himself to maintain his act. Vega coldly states that his faith is misplaced, as she is not a lover from his memories. Ojin smoothly replies that in his memories, she has always been this beautiful. Vega, flustered, tells him flattery will get him nowhere, but Ojin feels confident he's made a good start. Blushing, the celestial woman changes the subject. Touching his chest, Vega notes his growth to a 2-star in just a week. Ojin smugly attributes it to prior experience. Vega gets down to business, asking for details about the future he came from, so she can provide help. Ojin panics internally as he's put on the spot, realizing he has to invent a credible story. Ojin begins his lie, telling Vega about a future threat called the Heavenly Demon, a name that puzzles her. Internally sweating, Ojin quickly improvises that the Heavenly Demon is the entity that possesses the Black Heavens. Vega questions his statement about the Heavenly Demon possessing the Black Heavens, and Ojin hesitantly confirms. Clenching his fist, Ojin explains that the demon is a master of hiding, with its identity, name, and even species remaining unknown. Vega asks if even he, the regressor, doesn't know its identity, to which Ojin replies no. Vega finds this strange, questioning how he could have used the Star of Oaths to regress by killing the Black Heaven's owner without seeing his face. Caught completely off guard, Ojin wonders what the hell the Star of Oaths is. A shocking realization dawns on him. If the possessor of the Black Heavens died, it means he processes the unbelievable information. Li Xinyuk succeeded in killing him, making him question why Xinyuk regressed. He pushes the confusing thoughts aside, focusing on the immediate problem. Ojin explains that when he pierced the owner's heart, he turned to dust, and he was too absorbed in the fight to see anything. Vega seems to accept his story, closing her eyes in thought. Cheekily asking if she has a way to find the Black Heaven's possessor, Ojin says, "He's right here," before admitting they must wait for the demon to move. When Vega asks when the demon will act, Ojin recalls it will be in 3 years, giving him time to grow stronger and maintain his facade. Ojin resolves to get stronger while searching for clues, a plan Vega deems reasonable. With a sharp gaze, Ojin thinks to himself that it's time to conclude their conversation. Vega informs him that a new gate with relics will open in Mokdong in 2 days, and she will head there first. Ojin realizes this is information from Lee Shinyuk's memories, and that its accuracy will prove he is a regressor, freeing him from suspicion. Vega understands his plan, acknowledging that he is claiming the rights and knowledge only a regressor would have. Calling him my child, Vega ascends in a brilliant flash of golden light, leaving Ojin behind in the celestial space. As Vega departs, Ojin hilariously wonders if he should start calling his new celestial benefactor Mom. Before she leaves, Vega embraces Ojin, telling him not to overexert himself despite the heavy burden of fate. Blushing from the hug, Ojin thinks to himself that the warmth of a mother's touch is reaching his very soul. He feels a twinge of guilt for deceiving such a kind constellation, but quickly dismisses it as a necessary evil for survival. Internally plotting to add a final flourish to his act, Ojin tells Vega he's not pushing himself, which leaves her confused. Ojin dramatically grabs Vega's hand and declares he would do anything for her, inwardly celebrating his flawless performance. A flustered Vega covers her mouth, and Ojin internally congratulates himself on her nice reaction. Believing his performance a success, Ojin bows respectfully and announces he will head back. Vega calls for him to wait, and he turns back with a questioning look. With a bright smile, Vega stuns Ojin by declaring she will return with him, leaving him to ask what she means. Beaming with confidence, Vega announces her plan to manifest in his realm and travel alongside him. Utterly shocked, Ojin panics, wondering what she's talking about and if his act went too far. When he stammers about the commandments restraining constellations, Vega smugly asks, "Who do you think I am?" Glowing with power, Vega explains that while her strength and time will be limited, her method makes it possible. As blue light swirls around him, Ojin watches in stunned silence, wondering what she is doing. Bah! In a flash of light, Vega transforms into a tiny version of herself, and Ojin shouts that she's gotten so much smaller. She explains that after hearing his promise to do anything for her, she simply couldn't stay still. With a confident pose, Vega declares she will walk the lonely path with him, and tells him it's okay to be excited. Ojin cries in comical despair, realizing this means he'll have to keep up his exhausting regressor act every single day. The scene cuts abruptly to a red-haired woman bolting upright in bed, shouting in shock. The woman stammers in disbelief, asking how veganism is on Earth, but the tiny Vega just calls her words a mess. She demands to know why Ojin is here, prompting him to coolly correct her informal tone by calling her Nuna. At a table with a giant burger, Ojin asks if constellations can eat, and the tiny Vega on his shoulder confirms they can. Licking her lips, the tiny Vega declares her first taste of human food was delicious. The red-haired woman asks why Vega chose Ojin, questioning what's so special about him. Vega confidently states there is no one more special than Ojin, leaving the woman baffled. Floating elegantly, Vega cryptically promises that one day, the entire world will know the truth. She looks toward Ojin, finishing her proclamation that he will become a truly great being. The red-haired woman scoffs internally, thinking he's a great scammer at least. Vega then turns to the woman, telling her that she is also special, catching her off guard. Ojin realizes with a start that Vega can perceive that he, Nuna, is a metahuman. Vega asks if Hyun is unaware of her own nature, and Hyun questions what she means. Gazing at her eyes, Vega offers to help her with the curse she bears. However, the tiny Vega dismisses the idea, stating that it's meaningless to try right now. Stretching, she explains that staying manifest for too long worsens the restraints on her power. Vega dissolves into a stream of blue light, returning to the pendant around Ojin's neck. The red-haired woman is completely baffled by the events, and Ojin admits he didn't expect this either. She calls out to Kwon Ojin, who looks over at her, waiting. With a devious grin, the red-haired woman pats the bed, inviting him to sit so she can use his knees as a pillow. Ojin obliges, sitting on the bed as the woman rests her head on his lap. He bluntly replies that she's heavy, causing her to get angry. As she announces she's going to sleep, Ojin panics, wondering what he's supposed to do now. The scene shifts to a dark cave, where Ojin walks forward, followed by the tiny, floating form of Vega. Ojin notes Vega's lack of surprise that the gate appeared, concluding that she trusts his regressor knowledge. He chuckles to himself, realizing her cluelessness is the perfect cover to eliminate any lingering suspicions she might have. Carrying his spear, he proceeds deeper into the dimly lit cavern. Ojin feels a wave of anxiety, admitting he's nervous to hunt alone without knowing the monster's strength, despite bringing potions. Ojin resolves to obtain Aquarius, considering that he can always earn money by selling potions. Whoosh! Suddenly alert, Ojin's eyes glow as he senses something approaching. A tentacle whips past him, and Ojin narrowly dodges the surprise attack. Spotting an unpleasant-looking green slime monster, Ojin wonders how long it's been following them. Crackle determined to impress Vega, Ojin channels lightning through his spear. He decisively strikes the slime monster, unleashing a surge of energy upon impact. Boom! To his shock, the creature explodes violently upon being struck. Surrounded by a disgusting green mist, Ojin finds the aftermath even more unpleasant than the fight. From her pendant, Vega watches with interest, her thoughts trailing off in contemplation. His relief is short-lived as he discovers a massive swarm of the unpleasant creatures gathered ahead. With a squelch, the entire swarm of green slimes begins to advance on him. Annoyed, Ojin realizes the creatures' explosive deaths make them harder to deal with than he anticipated. As explosions chain around him, he decides he has no choice but to use that technique. He recalls the long-range skill he supposedly used in his previous life. Taking a deep breath, he leans back and charges his spear with crackling blue lightning. Vega watches in astonishment, recognizing the technique he's about to unleash. As the system announces the activation of spear lightning, Ojin unleashes a powerful volley of electrical blasts. The cave falls silent, littered with the smoking remnants of the defeated slimes. Triumphant, he realizes he successfully used a technique that was previously only accessible while blessed. The tiny Vega is left momentarily speechless, a single drop of sweat on her brow. Vega floats beside him, admitting that while she expected him to learn quickly, she's stunned by his incredible speed. She explains that spear lightning is an intermediate technique, noting that there are still areas he can improve upon. When Vega offers to teach him more, she catches herself, but Ojin smoothly interjects that it's not entirely true. He fabricates a new lie, claiming that his regression left some of his memories, including techniques, hazy. Claiming his memory is like a cut film, Ojin preemptively creates an excuse for any skills he can't perform. Vega finds his supposed memory loss strange, but seems to consider the possibility. Internally, Ojin theorizes he can blame his memory gaps on the limitations of the commandments. Vega cautiously accepts his reasoning, admitting it's not entirely impossible. He reassures her he hasn't forgotten what's truly important, piquing her curiosity. Surrounded by illusory flowers, Ojin smoothly declares his memories of her are what truly matter, leaving her stunned. Blushing furiously, the Celestial stammers, completely flustered by his declaration. As she scolds him for his embarrassing words, Ojin internally celebrates, knowing he's found her weakness. Changing the subject, Vega notes an ominous energy she can't quite describe, putting Ojin on alert. He looks down to find a strange, dark crystal, wondering if it's a mutated myrrh crystal. He questions the appearance of yet another mutation. Examining the crystal, he grows concerned, noting that such mutations shouldn't be so common. Vega finds the black myrrh crystal strange, confirming Ojin's suspicion that this is an unknown phenomenon. Deciding to investigate, Ojin tells Vega he's heading deeper into the cave, and she agrees. He walks deeper, pondering the mystery of the black myrrh crystal and the escalating number of unknown events. Perched on his shoulder, Vega interrupts his thoughts, saying she's had a strange feeling for a while, that it feels like they've been walking in circles. And Ojin panics, wondering if she's onto him. Realizing he is trapped, Ojin decides he has no choice but to use the Cain's Venatici stigma he absorbed. He confidently points in a new direction, declaring, "Vega, it's this way." He follows the faint, lingering scent of the black slimes, guiding them forward. He and the tiny celestial proceed cautiously through the darkened passage. Vega confirms his direction is correct, stating the ominous energy she felt before is much stronger here. They finally arrive in a large chamber, standing before a massive hooded stone statue. A brilliant light flashes from the statue's forehead, and Ojin wonders if it's what he thinks it is. He realizes with excitement that a relic, a dark, ornate chalice, is materializing from within the statue. Forgetting the danger for a moment, Ojin's first thought is pure excitement over how much money the relic will be worth. Ojin daydreams about the immense wealth a relic could bring, fantasizing about the price of a potential 6-star find. When the tiny Vega asks if the chalice is a relic, Ojin, with glowing dollar signs for eyes, confirms that it is. Intent on obtaining the relic quickly, Ojin is suddenly startled by an unexpected presence. From the shadows, a dark, sludgy humanoid creature begins to form behind him. Vega dryly notes the arrival of more bothersome things, but Ojin confidently claims he anticipated this. He scoffs at the weak-looking guardians, declaring that their numbers are irrelevant. With a confident smirk, he vows to take them all down quickly and claim his prize. A new black slime monster rises from the ground, catching Ojin's attention and making him pause. To his surprise, the creature suddenly grows to an immense size, and he wonders what's happening. Whoa! A monstrous, multi-eyed green beast roars, revealing its terrifying form. Spear in hand, Ojin prepares to face the gigantic creature that now towers over him. His bravado vanishes as he panics internally, realizing just how strong his opponent looks. Vega remarks that he must have known this would happen, but Ojin shouts back in a panic that he absolutely did not. Settling onto the stone statue, Vega agrees to observe the fight as he requested, leaving him to face the monster alone. Putting on a brave face, Ojin laughs and tells Vega to count on him, resuming his act. Facing the colossal enemy, he stands frozen, desperately wondering what he should do. His internal thoughts betray his terror, as he admits to himself that he is completely, utterly fucked. Ojin braces himself as he confronts the massive monster, which begins to glow with an ominous energy. He curses himself for getting carried away by the joy of finding a relic, realizing he's in a terrible situation. Mustering his courage, he decides he still has a chance and leaps into action against the beast. Kuyo. As the monster roars, a magical link forms with its smaller allies, and Ojin worries they've become invincible. Deciding to use a trick, Ojin pulls out a handgun he brought as a light flare and screams for the monster to eat this. He fires the gun, unleashing a blinding flash of light directly at the creature's face. Coo! The monster reels back, roaring in pain from the unexpected flashbang. A brilliant explosion of light temporarily incapacitates the giant beast. Kuei. The creature continues to roar in agony, momentarily stunned by the brilliant light. Landing perfectly, Ojin seizes the opportunity, thinking that this is his moment to strike. Knowing a simple light flare won't work twice, he dashes toward the monster for a decisive attack. He leaps towards the monster, preparing to unleash a powerful follow-up. Determined, he shouts that he's putting everything into this one ultimate attack. Crackle. He summons his power, unleashing a torrent of blue lightning through his spear. He stabs the beast with his electrified spear, causing it to cry out in pain. To his shock, he feels his attack being repelled and realizes something is wrong. The monster's tough hide deflects his attack, sending him flying backward. As the monster roars, unfazed, Ojin realizes with dread that one attack isn't going to be enough. Kyuka's slimy tentacle whips out and strikes Ojin hard, sending him reeling. He digs his spear into the ground, barely managing to stop his momentum. Suddenly, multiple tentacles erupt from the ground and ensnare him completely. Ugh, he cries out, as he's caught and violently hoisted into the air by the monster's tendrils. Believing he's survived the initial attack, he realizes with horror that he couldn't have dodged a faster strike. He fires a wire, swinging desperately to escape the monster's grasp. Pouring all his remaining energy into one final gambit, he unleashes a massive electrical discharge, screaming, "1,000,000 volts, you bastard!" He becomes a conduit for a maelstrom of crackling blue energy. Coughing from the strain, he struggles to control the immense power he's unleashed. The massive burst of electricity successfully severs one of the monster's tentacles. Emerging from the smoke with a smug grin, Ojin declares, "Got you." Weakened from using blue lightning twice, he feels he's on the verge of collapsing. Just as he celebrates his victory, Vega screams a frantic warning, shouting that it's dangerous. Confused, Ojin turns just as another green tentacle whips toward him from behind. Whoosh! The tentacle slams into the ground, narrowly missing Ojin as he turns away. Coughing on the ground, Ojin is met by a worried Vega, who rushes to his side, asking if he's alright. He looks up in shock to see the monster has transformed and is still alive. Realizing he has no other choice, Ojin calls out to Vega, making a desperate plea. With a confident smirk, he asks her to give him a blessing, leaving Vega momentarily stunned. Vega agrees, sending a stream of crackling turquoise energy directly into Ojin. System windows announce Vega has bestowed the blessing of the stars, temporarily increasing his stigma's proficiency. Gritting his teeth, Ojin feels the blessing's effects are far stronger than last time. He struggles to contain the overwhelming power as he unleashes a torrent of lightning. The monster's tentacles whip out, sending him flying backward. He nimbly twists midair, crackling with blue lightning as he prepares a counterattack. Huab! With a determined shout, he channels a massive amount of lightning into his fists. He dives toward the beast, weaving between tentacles to deliver a decisive blow. Deciding to use one blue lightning per punch, he rapidly drains his mana with a flurry of strikes. He pushes forward relentlessly, ignoring the immense strain on his body. With the blessing's power, he declares that right now, his mana is endless. Wah! He screams, unleashing an even more intense barrage of blue lightning. He continues his lightning-fast assault, striking the monstrous creature again and again. Feeling he's close to a breakthrough, he pushes himself just a bit more. With bloodshot eyes, he feels he's about to reach a new level of power. Vega suddenly screams for him to stop, snapping him out of his power-crazed state. Dazed, Ojin wonders what the exhilarating feeling he just had was. He cries out in pain, clutching his chest as Vega looks on, concerned. Watching him, Vega gasps, wondering if it could be what she thinks it is. Ojin feels a sudden, intense, burning sensation from his stigma. A system notification announces Lyra's stigma has reached 3 stars, leveling up his lightning skills, leaving him stunned. Vega marvels that he reached 3 stars in less than a month. She notes that raising the North Star's stigma should be incredibly difficult, making his speed truly remarkable. Vega looks down, confused, as if she heard something faint. She floats down to the now unconscious Ojin, calling him her child and telling him to wake up. Leaning over him, she gasps, startled by something. She cries out his name as he lies passed out on the cave floor. Ojin groans, blinking as he slowly regains consciousness. Through a hazy blur, he sees Vega's smiling face asking if he's awake. He wakes up fully to find his head resting on a full-sized Vega's lap. A flustered, chibi-style Vega appears and pushes his head back down, insisting he rest a bit longer. Vega calmly explains that he passed out as soon as the battle ended. Reminding him he's still human, she chides him for his recklessness. He thinks she's acting like a mom. Blushing and pouting, she asks if there's a problem, and he quickly says no. He worries that she doubts him, because he barely won, even with her blessing. Flustered, she tells him he can keep calling her by her name if he wants, leaving him confused. He stammers that he was just out of his mind from the fight. She playfully pinches his cheek, asking if that means he's not out of his mind anymore. He nervously agrees to speak casually with her, and she smiles, saying she's happy to hear it. Suddenly, Vega is racked with painful sparks, realizing the restrictions are active again as Ojin calls her name in alarm. He immediately apologizes, blaming himself for getting carried away and overusing her power. Still sparking, she reassures him, noting the monster was as strong as a 5-star but uniquely powerful. He thanks her but wonders how she healed him, feeling strangely light on his feet. He discovers all his potion bottles are empty, finally understanding how he recovered. Staring at his empty myrrh crystal containers, Ojin panics, realizing the items worth millions are all gone. The white-haired woman cheerfully explains she used the expensive crystals on him so he would wake up faster, leaving him comically horrified. Ojin weeps dramatically over the 3 used-up crystals, lamenting the massive amount of money he just lost. Mistaking his financial grief for gratitude, the woman assumes he's crying because he's touched. He internally begs her to be quiet. Ojin grabs the woman, tearfully demanding to know how she fed him the items, startling her. Blushing and crackling with electricity, the flustered woman tells him not to mind it, leaving Ojin utterly confused. Declaring he's leaving now, Ojin turns to go, surrounded by a blue aura. A disembodied voice asks where he's running off to as a glowing blue locket is shown. Slumping in defeat, Ojin dismisses the awkward moment as unimportant. With a sly grin, he decides it's time to start collecting his loot from the battle. He picks up a dark, chalice-like holy relic, wondering what it does after all the trouble it caused. Hoping the relic is valuable, he prepares to leave as a dark aura begins to seep from the item. He stops in his tracks, shocked as a strange purple energy envelops him. What is this? He cries out, clutching his chest as the violent dark energy consumes him. A system window announces that Black Heaven is absorbing the power of the dark star from within the holy relic. Ojin screams in agony as the immense power surges through his body. System notifications confirm the successful absorption, the evolution of his Black Heaven trait to now hide his presence, and the partial fulfillment of his third enlightenment. The dark purple energy subsides, leaving his hand hovering over the now inert-looking relic. He marvels that Black Heaven can absorb power from relics, but his surprise turns to confusion as he senses the enormous aura within him. Hook! He panics, realizing the relic is now useless because Black Heaven drained its sticky aura completely. Gritting his teeth, his face contorts with pure, unadulterated rage at his loss. Fuck! He throws a full-blown tantrum on the ground, screaming that the relic was his and demanding it back. A voice notes they didn't expect to find someone here, and Ojin pauses mid-tantrum, looking up with a questioning glance. Seeing three mysterious cloaked figures, his despair quickly turns into a sly grin as he senses an opportunity. The lead figure, a light-haired man, pulls back his hood and gives a smug, knowing smile. Ojin internally sizes them up, wondering who these new bastards are. The light-haired man smiles, commenting that the situation is rather difficult. The man indicates the drained relic in Ojin's hand, stating they need it. Ojin feigns surprise. Offering to buy it, the light-haired man extends his hand. Ojin internally realizes he can bait them. Ojin plays along, suggesting the relic isn't fit for his skill type, and internally confirms that his new mark has fallen for the ruse. With a confident grin, he posits that life is more valuable than a relic, thinking to himself that business is all about attitude. The light-haired man is struck speechless by Ojin's bold negotiation tactic. The cloaked man laughs awkwardly, claiming it was all a misunderstanding due to their guildmaster's penchant for ominous clothing. Ojin smiles disarmingly, pretending to accept the excuse and admitting he was being dramatic. Internally, he scoffs at the lie, recalling the clear murderous intent he felt from the man. A flashback confirms his senses, showing the man's initial murderous gaze upon seeing the holy relic. He realizes with a start that these men possess the same power of the Dark Star that the relic had. A dark purple aura emanates from the smiling, light-haired man, confirming Ojin's suspicions. The cloaked figures agree to a deal as Ojin stands ready, now holding a large, glowing blue crystal instead of the relic. Ojin inspects the massive myrrh crystal he just traded for, excitedly estimating its worth at 300 to 400 million. The cloaked man accepts the deal, and Ojin smoothly thanks him for the transaction. Watching them leave, Ojin grins victoriously, gloating that he's hit the jackpot by offloading the useless relic on the unsuspecting pushovers. Despite his victory, he decides not to leave, feeling that the cloaked men are too fishy to ignore. The light-haired man looks back with a severe, unreadable expression. Ojin crouches in the shadows, settling in to observe the mysterious group. He senses there's a dark secret to be uncovered here. Hiding, he puzzles over inconsistencies, recalling from Li Xinyuk's memories that the relic should have appeared 6 days later. He deduces they must have known the relic's appearance schedule and were deliberately targeting it. Peeking out from behind a stalagmite, he wonders if the future has changed and resolves to wait and see what happens. As Ojin watches from a distance, one cloaked figure asks another, named Ojin, why he didn't kill their target. The light-haired man, Ojin, chides his subordinate for needing an explanation, and the subordinate quickly apologizes in fear. Ojin smiles smugly, examining the now useless relic he acquired from Ojin. With arms outstretched, Ojin preaches that the age of the stars is ending, and the dark stars will soon rule the skies and punish their enemies. His cloaked followers bow in unison, hailing the blessing of the dark stars as Ojin watches over them. Pleased, Ojin smiles and notes that the dark stars must be happy with their display of loyalty. A cloaked follower confirms his leader's sentiment, stating, of course. A cloaked figure raises the chalice-like relic in the cave. Ojin tells his followers it's time to head back, and they respond with a fervent, yes sir. Just as a swirling blue portal opens, a follower has a sudden realization. Ojin asks his subordinate if he remembers the man they just dealt with. The subordinate stammers that he does. With a cruel smile, Ojin orders his follower to hunt down and kill Ojin. As the followers prepare to leave, they vow to obey and report to the bailiff. The cloaked figures vanish into the swirling blue light, leaving the cave empty. Ojin steps out from his hiding spot with a confident smirk, having eavesdropped on their entire plan. He recalls his thoughts, realizing the future hadn't changed and they wanted the relic, but something they said was strange. As the portal fades, Ojin muses on the Dark Star Society, concluding they must be a shady, illegal guild. Ojin observes a stone carving of a hooded, praying figure within the cave. Holding the second untouched relic, he wonders if his Black Heaven's ability will try to absorb this one as well. He realizes Black Heaven's isn't reacting, concluding it was the Dark Star's power inside the first relic, not the item itself, that was absorbed. In a cute daydream, a chibi Ojin celebrates scoring a myrrh crystal and another relic. With a determined expression, Ojin thinks this latest haul brings him one step closer to his goal. He decides it's time to find the henchman sent to do his master's dirty work. The cloaked subordinate searches the cave frantically, wondering where Ojin could have gone. Frustrated, the subordinate mutters that he's searched everywhere but can't find a single trace of his target. He panics, knowing he must find Ojin or face the wrath of his leader, Yojin. The subordinate looks up to see Ojin's spear right in front of him, and he curses, demanding to know where he's been. Pop! The subordinate gasps in pure shock as a bead of sweat drips down his face. Ojin appears directly behind the terrified subordinate, taunting him with a casual, "Peekaboo, brat!" Wham Ojin violently slams the man to the ground, leaving him stunned and bleeding. Looking down at his defeated opponent, Ojin states that he seems to be mistaken about something. Crackle Ojin unleashes a torrent of blue lightning, torturing the man and screaming that he'll be the one asking questions now. Cowering in pain, the subordinate tearfully begs for his life, promising to talk. With a cold, menacing grin, Ojin commands him to start reciting every single thing he knows. A large bird flies over a dark forest, approaching a building under the night sky. As the bird lands on a man's shoulder, a voice asks Ojin if he brought the goods. An elderly, long-bearded man is introduced as Cheon Do-yoon, the Owl King, a 6th-rank bailiff of the Dark Star Society. Ojin reports his success to the Owl King, who commends him for a job well done. The Owl King simply says the word owls. Several cloaked figures with purple auras fly through the woods to join their leader. The followers, including Ojin, gather around the Owl King in the clearing. A single cloaked figure kneels in the center of a massive, glowing magic circle on the ground. A hand carefully places the relic into a designated spot on the glowing magic circle. The figure in the center raises his arms, proclaiming that the brilliant night sky will now be covered with dark stars. Ojin chants ecstatically, his arms spread wide in zealous worship. Ojin stands at the center of the ritual under the full moon, his followers watching him. He looks down in confusion at the relic, which has fallen over on the magic circle, having done nothing. Ojin's face contorts in absolute horror as he realizes the ritual has failed. He trembles, stammering in disbelief and calling out to the Owl King as he recalls the face of the man who scammed him. The Owl King stands in ominous silence, his face shadowed as a dark, menacing aura gathers around him. Back in the cave, Ojin learns from his captive that the Dark Star Society is an organization formed by the Dark Star's constellations. Ojin looks at his captive off-screen, asking what a Dark Star's constellation is. The captured man nervously explains they are constellations born from an ancient era of darkness. Enraged by the vague answer, Ojin shakes the man, who shrieks that it's all he was ever told. Interrogating the now-bound captive, Ojin demands to know his group's size and base location. The man reveals there are 50 of them at an observatory on Bagan Mountain. Ojin presses further, asking for the location of their main base, but the captive claims he doesn't know. As Ojin threateningly raises his spear, the captive panics, swearing that only branch heads know the location of the main base or other branches. Ojin scoffs internally, realizing they wouldn't trust a low-level follower with important information. Calming down, Ojin says he still doesn't understand, leaving the bound man confused. Ojin questions why he would follow such an obviously suspicious group that offers him nothing. The captive lowers his gaze, remaining silent and conflicted. With his head bowed, the man reveals that someone named Ojin bestowed stigmas upon them. Ojin is stunned by the revelation, unable to comprehend what he just heard. He ponders how someone who isn't a constellation could possibly grant stigmas to others. A sudden realization dawns on Ojin. The promise of a stigma is the bait used to recruit followers. The scene darkens, noting that in this world, people would betray anyone to become an awakened. Deciding he's heard enough, Ojin prepares to deliver a finishing blow, but the captive screams for him to wait. The man desperately begs for his life, pleading that he has a daughter. In tears, The captive confesses he only joined the society for his daughter's sake, which catches Ojin completely by surprise. Ojin's expression hardens as he thinks about the harsh reality for orphans, knowing their struggle all too well. He coldly demands the man's name, but the captive is too confused to answer. Ojin clarifies, asking for his daughter's name. The man quietly reveals it's Choi Yeren. The man continues, explaining his daughter is only 9 and too young to survive alone. Ojin proceeds to ask for his daughter's birthday, favorite food, and even her height and weight. The captive looks on in terrified confusion as Ojin stands over him. With a chilling grin, Ojin demands he repeat the answers backwards, and the captive freezes in terror. Ojin menacingly lists the questions in reverse, ordering the man to answer as he points his glowing spear. The captive breaks down, crying out for help as the spear's blade nears his face. Ojin smugly explains that reciting a lie in reverse is difficult, confirming his suspicions of fraud before striking down. The captive stares in shock as the glowing blade stops just inches from his neck. Ojin asks for the branch location one last time. The man confirms it before a bloody strike is heard. With blood splattered on his shirt, Ojin notes that at least the location was true. Standing over the slain man, Ojin lets out a heavy sigh. He contemplates the Dark Star Society, realizing they're more powerful than he initially thought. Examining the body, he spots a faint glow and wonders if it's the Dark Star stigma he heard about. A torrent of dark purple energy erupts from the dead man's chest. System notifications report that his Black Heavens is absorbing the owl's stigma, but the amount is insufficient to activate a new one. A smirk on his face, Ojin wonders what kind of power this new stigma will grant him. He realizes he has to prepare for retaliation from the 50 members of the enemy's branch. The scene shifts to a moonlit forest where a white-robed elder confronts a group of black-robed figures. The elder chuckles, asking a man named Ojin what he is doing. A white-haired man in a black hood, Ojin, stammers that the other executors would mock their faction, the Owls, for this failure. The elder casually fires a piercing beam of light from his fingertip, striking Ojin. A thin trickle of blood runs down Ojin's cheek from the attack. Ojin stumbles back as the elder sternly warns him not to disappoint him again. The elder loses interest and departs with his followers, leaving a frustrated Ojin behind. 2 robed figures mock Ojin behind his back as their leader walks away. Ojin stands silently in the magic circle as ethereal blue feathers dissipate around him. He swiftly enters a modern-looking building. Subordinates in black robes greet him nervously, addressing him as Ojin Nim. As one subordinate curses Ojin, Ojin angrily demands to know the status of the man he sent to kill him. A cloaked subordinate reports to Ojin that they've lost contact with the henchman, leaving Ojin shocked. Ojin calmly orders his followers to find the missing man immediately, but they seem hesitant and confused. His composure shatters as he erupts in a furious rage, screaming at his useless followers to find the man who scammed him. The scene transitions to a cityscape as Ojin narrates that a week has passed since he returned from the Mokdong Gate. Standing on a balcony, Ojin reflects on how he has spent the week at home, not visiting any other gates. With a determined glint in his eye, Ojin leaps from a rooftop, training with his spear. He lands gracefully, his focus absolute as he continues his rooftop training. Ojin soars through the air, landing lightly on another building. As he vaults over an obstacle, he thinks about getting used to the explosive strength he gained after reaching 3-star. Drying his hair after a shower, Ojin reflects on his new power, noting it's stronger than Taurus and faster than Scorpion. He pauses mid-thought, a hoodie pulled over his head, pondering the issue of using his wooden spear with lightning skills. A red-haired woman with a prosthetic leg sits on the bed, asking Ojin if he's done, and beckoning him over. He admits it's nice, but she curtly tells him to shut up while she continues. Ojin internally notes that despite her annoyed tone, she's putting real effort into the massage, and it feels quite good. He dramatically cries out that he's going to die from pleasure while she smiles devilishly, asking if it feels good. A jolt of purple lightning crackles over his back as he lies there, lost in the sensation. He screams that he's actually going to die, and from outside the house she tells him to stop being so dramatic. Ugh. Ojin sits up, clutching his back as the woman chides him for being a baby, reminding him of his immense strength. He looks back, surprised, as she promises to go easier on him. The woman falls silent, looking down sadly as Ojin watches her. concerned. He recalls that she was once a 7-star awakened, but is now a halfling who can no longer use her fiery stigma. Sitting up, Ojin worries that his comment might have hurt her feelings. She breaks the silence, asking if he's earned a lot of money since becoming an awakened. He confirms that he has. With a sad, downward glance, she quietly asks if that's really true. The air grows heavy as an unspoken tension hangs between them. He chooses not to reveal their financial struggles, internally reaffirming his goal to earn 10 billion won. The red-haired woman sits with her head bowed, looking deeply despondent. She suddenly snaps out of her funk, laughing and playfully slapping his back while calling him a brat, causing him to yelp in pain. Standing on his porch, Ojin answers a call from his team leader, who says he has something to discuss. The team leader informs him of an urgent quest, but Ojin hesitates, thinking the timing is bad while Vega recovers. As Ojin begins to decline the quest, the caller interrupts, stating the reward is 2 billion. In a comical shift, Ojin dons a wolf mask and begins barking excitedly into the phone, bewildering his team leader. Having accepted, Ojin agrees to head to the association to discuss the details. Arriving at the association building, Ojin greets his team leader. Sitting in an office, Ojin tells the team leader he has a question before they discuss the quest, and the man agrees. Ojin presents a simple drawing of a V-shaped symbol, asking if the team leader recognizes the stigma. The team leader identifies it on his tablet as the stigma of owl. He explains it's one of the forgotten stigmas, a term Ojin has never heard before. The team leader elaborates that these were stigmas recorded when constellations first appeared 8 years ago, but have since vanished. Ojin asks why they vanished, but the man replies that record-keeping was poor during those chaotic times. Pondering this, Ojin realizes that if the owl stigma is that old, then the Dark Star Society must be as well. He recalls the cloaked figures, concluding they aren't a new organization after all. With a determined look, Ojin understands the situation is far more serious than he anticipated and that he must prepare well. When asked where he saw the stigma, Ojin recounts his argument with a man named Ojin from the Dark Star Society. The team leader promises to investigate the owl in the Dark Star Society, earning Ojin's thanks. Ojin finally asks about the quest as his team leader reaches for his tea. The team leader explains, the client is the Valhalla Guild, a rapidly rising group of elites Ojin hasn't heard of. He adds that the guild is powerful enough to be a candidate for the 7 stars, capturing Ojin's full attention. Ojin muses on the Valhalla Guild, wondering if Korea is about to get a second 7 stars member as his team leader prepares to brief him. The team leader explains the quest is to find a person missing in a gate, which Ojin realizes is why the reward is 2 billion. The man went missing on November 6th, the team leader adds, with his last known location being a low-level gate in Incheon. Ojin realizes this is his old scamming territory and confidently thinks he can solve the case within 3 days. The team leader gives a description of the missing person, a fit man in his 20s with brown hair, about to reveal his name. The missing person is named Lee Shin-hyuk, a revelation that visibly stuns Ojin into asking, "What?" The team leader asks if Ojin can find him, but Ojin is too shocked to answer. Ojin's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated shock as the news sinks in. His thoughts darken, trailing off as he remembers that the man is already dead. A flashback shows Ojin meeting a smiling young man in a gate, whom he identifies as the real regressor. He wonders who would be looking for Lee Shin-hyuk, thinking he's merely missing, as an image of the man's dead body flashes in his mind. The only person who would look for him is his younger brother, Lee Woo-hyuk, a stern-looking man in a white jacket. Ojin understands the situation. Originally, Lee Shin-hyuk would be hospitalized, but because of his interference, things have changed. As the team leader asks if he'll take the job, Ojin holds up a hand, telling him to wait. Feeling a headache coming on, Ojin is overwhelmed by the combined complications of the Dark Star Society and Lee Shin-hyuk. He contemplates the twisted fate and future connecting the two brothers, Lee Shin-hyuk and Lee Woo-hyuk. The ever-present threat of the Dark Star Society looms over these new complications. In a flash of insight, Ojin's eyes widen as he formulates a new plan. A cunning smile spreads across his face as he processes the new information. Ojin stands and flatly refuses the job, leaving his team leader utterly bewildered. Flabbergasted, the team leader shouts that the Ojin he knows would never reject a 2 billion won job, making Ojin blush. The team leader tries to sell the networking opportunity with the Valhalla Guild. but Ojin coolly states there will be other chances. With a smirk, Ojin asks for the Valhalla Guild's number instead, ready to begin his own hunt. The scene shifts to the newly formed Mukdong Gate, where adventurers gather before the shimmering portal. Yawn. Ojin lets out a large yawn, looking bored. Standing with his spear, Ojin waits impatiently, wondering why his targets are late and if he'll have to come back tomorrow. He begins to walk away, hoping to finish his task before Vega awakens. Suddenly, Ojin stops, sensing a presence behind him. He turns to see a group of people and immediately detects their killing intent. Ojin sprints away, baiting a man in a fedora, who shouts in alarm. The chase leads them to a moonlit park path. Huff, huff, the man in the fedora pants, confused as to where his target vanished. The pursuer looks up, realizing he's being taunted for his persistence. Ojin appears before the shocked man, revealing with a triumphant smirk that he was the one being lured. TSK, the man adjusts his hat, unimpressed, and asks if Ojin thinks he's already won. He unleashes a swirling vortex of dark purple energy and black feathers. Leaping over the attack, Ojin identifies it as the power of the Strix's stigma. Crackle. Having gauged his opponent's power, Ojin gathers crackling blue lightning, declaring, "It's time to end this." With a roar of spear lightning, he unleashes a massive blast of electrical energy that engulfs his foe. The henchman slumps against a tree, defeated and shrouded in dark energy. Standing over his downed opponent, Ojin declares himself roughly prepared for what's to come. He acknowledges that the henchman was a tough fight, meaning the Dark Star Society's bailiffs will be even stronger. Ojin casually takes a picture of his spear leaning against the defeated man. He taps his phone, sending the image. With a smug grin, Ojin makes a call, confident that another person will now handle the Dark Star Society for him. The scene transitions to a brightly lit office building under the full moon. A woman with dark hair and glasses answers her phone, introducing herself as Kim Seon-young from the Valhalla Guild. She politely informs the caller that the guild master is currently unavailable. Her professional demeanor shatters when the caller informs her that they have found Lee Shin-hyuk. Kim Seon-young jolts to her feet in shock, turning to someone else in the office and asking what the news is. A black-haired man in a white shirt, Lee Woo-yuk, answers his phone in the Valhalla Guild office, asking in disbelief if his brother has been found. Ojin corrects him with a sinister smile, stating that they're holding him, a clarification that shocks Lee Woo-yuk. Standing in a moonlit forest, Ojin repeats that they are holding Lee Shin-hyuk, while Lee Woo-hyuk internally dismisses it as nonsense, prompting Ojin to offer evidence. Lee Woo-hyuk stares at his phone, his face a mask of utter shock and horror at the image he's received. As Lee Woo-hyuk silently wonders who is behind this, Ojin laughs from the other end of the line, noting that his foe now seems to believe him. While Ojin waits, Lee Woo-hyuk furiously repeats his demand to know the caller's identity. Ojin simply smirks, enjoying the power he holds over the man on the other end of the line. In a flash of inspiration, Ojin decides to unleash his hound on the enemy. He pictures the defeated Dark Star henchman, intending to use him as a feral hound to tear his enemies apart. With a cruel smirk, Ojin prepares to tell Lee Woo-hyuk the name of this so-called hound. Ojin coolly introduces himself over the phone with the name of his enemy, Ojin. The scene shifts to Lee Woo-hyuk's perspective as his internal monologue begins, recalling his history with his brother. The flashback begins on a sunny day, with a soccer ball soaring into a goal net. A young Lee Woo-hyuk cheers for his amazing older brother, Lee Shin-hyuk, who humbly brushes off the praise. As his older brother teases him, Lee Woo-hyuk recalls how he idolized his talented sibling, for whom everything seemed easy. Lee Shin-hyuk feigns embarrassment, but is clearly pleased by his little brother's adoration. But their peaceful life shatters with the arrival of monsters, as people are shown screaming in terror amidst fiery chaos. Lee Woo-hyuk pants, a vibrant teal aura swirling around him as he awakens his powers for the first time. He narrates that while he was chosen by the constellation, Leo, his older brother, whom he now carries, was not chosen at all. In his office, Lee Woo-hyuk grips his head in despair, remembering how the weight of that failure made his brother sick. He recalls being too absorbed in his own newfound power to notice his brother's pain. The brothers are shown drifting apart in darkness. As Lee Woo-hyuk admits, he realized their relationship had fractured far too late. He reflects that he understood his brother's pain, as he too had once felt inferior before his own awakening. An image of a torn photograph of the two brothers, symbolizes how their relationship slowly grew distant and awkward. He remembers the night his brother, Lee Shin-hyuk, joyfully ran to him, announcing that he had finally awakened with Pixis's stigma. Believing their relationship could finally be mended, Lee Woo-yuk recalls his genuine happiness at the news. His brother presents him with a magnificent, custom-made spear, pointing out the high-class myrrh crystals embedded in it. Lee Woo-yuk gratefully accepts the precious gift, promising his brother he will use it well. Snapping back to the present, Lee Woo-yuk stares at the photo of that same spear on his phone, speechless as Ojin asks if he believes him now. His thoughts race as he recognizes the unique silver blade and green myrrh crystal, realizing there's only one such spear in the world. The irrefutable proof hits him, and his expression darkens with dread and fury. Raging into the phone, Lee Woo-yuk demands to know who the caller is, startling his assistant, Kim Seon-young. Ojin calmly issues his demands: 3 billion in cash delivered alone to the Bagan Mountain Observatory with a threat of consequences for disobedience. Having set his trap, Ojin coolly ends the call. Lee Woo-yuk stands alone in his vast office, the weight of the situation crashing down on him. He grinds his teeth, his face contorted in pure, unadulterated rage. Lee Woo-yuk unleashes a massive torrent of teal energy, screaming in fury. Kim Seon-young rushes toward the commotion, crying out for the guildmaster in alarm. The force of his power erupts through the office, shattering the window blinds. His outburst subsides, leaving Lee Woo-yuk standing silently amidst the destruction, his face a grim mask of resolve. With cold determination, he orders the association to be contacted and all guild members to be summoned immediately. Meanwhile, at the association, the team leader shows Ojin the file on the real Ojin, a cloaked figure with light hair. Ojin muses that Lee Woo-yuk acted faster than he expected, impressed that it took less than a day to receive the call. He reasons that while Lee Woo-yuk must be suspicious, the undeniable evidence of the spear forced his hand. His team leader marvels at the crazy coincidence that the Valhalla Guild is suddenly looking for the very person Ojin is targeting. When the team leader mentions that Valhalla has even requested direct support, Ojin's interest is piqued. Vowing sees his own cunning reflection in the table, thinking to himself that it's time to see how this plays out. He smiles in anticipation, eagerly awaiting the inevitable confrontation between Lee Woo-yuk and Ojin. The scene shifts to the remote, moonlit observatory where the meeting is set to take place. Kaka. Inside, a cloaked figure stands over a writhing, bloodied comrade, coldly telling him this is no time for screaming. A hooded man with white hair exclaims he's found a clue, explaining he tracked a target from an association-only building. The white-haired man continues, explaining his stakeout failed, leading him to wonder if the target belongs to a branch office. After a subordinate expresses confusion, the white-haired man confirms the suspect isn't a member, despite exiting an association-only building. Finding the situation highly suspicious and ominous, the white-haired man wonders about the stranger's true identity. A subordinate rushes up the stairs, calling his name, and Ojin, now identified, asks what the matter is. After his subordinate reports their targets are caught, a pleased Ojin decides to handle one of them personally to improve his mood. The scene shifts to a spear standing in the grass under the moonlight, as an unseen person questions what it is. Ojin walks through the moonlit forest, deciding to investigate the mysterious spear later. A man in a hat, Lee Woo-yuk, suddenly appears and asks the approaching Ojin if he is lost. In response, Ojin silently levitates into the air, looking down on the surprised man. With a smug smile, Ojin warns him that coming here alone so late can be very dangerous. After a moment of silence, Lee Woo-yuk's expression hardens as he recognizes his opponent. Ojin gracefully descends, landing softly on the forest floor. Lee Woo-yuk stands firm, internally noting the chilling aura emanating from Ojin. Ojin announces that he's found Shin-yuk's spear, leaving a bewildered Lee Woo-yuk to question what he means. Kyuk! Ojin suddenly cries out in pain, clutching himself as an unseen force affects him. A massive torrent of blue energy erupts from Lee Woo-yuk, engulfing the clearing. Thrown back by the blast, Ojin stares in shock, exclaiming that he recognizes that face. As Lee Woo-yuk's face is revealed in the light of his power, Ojin identifies him as the Black Lion, Lee Woo-yuk. Ojin panics, realizing he's facing the Valhalla Guildmaster and a potential 7 Stars member, wondering why he's here. Lee Woo-yuk presents a large chest overflowing with cash, telling a confused Ojin that he's prepared at all. Gripping his weapon tightly, Lee Woo-yuk glares and begins to issue a challenge. Leaping into the air, surrounded by a vortex of energy, Lee Woo-yuk dares Ojin to try and take the money. He unleashes a massive, lightning-fast energy attack directly at his stunned opponent. Struck by the overwhelming force, Ojin cries out in pain, demanding to know what is happening. As Ojin staggers back in shock, Lee Woo-hyuk glances over his shoulder, having seemingly anticipated his reaction. A confused Ojin looks around, wondering if there are other people involved in this bizarre encounter. Lee Woo-hyuk shouts for everyone to charge, and a group of identically dressed fighters with long hair rush into battle. Ojin is caught off guard as one of the fighters rushes past him, ignoring him completely. From his stunned perspective, Ojin watches the fighters engage an unseen enemy in a brilliant flash of combat. Wah! One of the fighters, a redhead, dashes at high speed towards a nearby building. Standing safely aside, Ojin smirks, realizing his opponent must have thought he would fall for such an obvious trap. Lee Woo-yuk confronts Ojin face to face, demanding an answer to where his brother is. Stunned by the accusation, Ojin wonders why on earth he is being asked about a missing brother. Lee Woo turns to watch a massive explosion erupt in the distance where his allies are fighting. A new figure with two-toned black and blue hair appears, observing the scene with a silent, serious expression. The mysterious man with two-toned hair launches a swift, sweeping attack. Damn it. Ojin curses, unleashing waves of dark purple energy from his hands in defense. The two-toned, haired man's attack easily shatters Ojin's defensive magic in a burst of light and energy. Bracing against the assault, Ojin realizes he's completely outmatched, admitting his opponent is someone he could never defeat. Despite the overwhelming power, Ojin senses that something about this fight is very strange. Lee Woo-yuk looks on in confusion, internally questioning why the two-toned haired man has appeared. He continues to puzzle over the situation, confused by both the mention of money and the question about his brother. The two-toned haired man lands a devastating blow, sending Ojin flying as he screams in pain. Defeated and on his knees, Ojin looks up at the mysterious man who now stands over him, weapon in hand. Still reeling, Ojin realizes he doesn't understand anything his opponent is saying, but a dawning certainty begins to form. The truth dawns on him. He's being framed, and someone is manipulating the Black Lion to do it. The mysterious assailant raises his glowing blade for another strike, as the stunned Ojin can only watch. The blade strikes home, and Ojin cries out in agony as the attack connects. Bleeding from the mouth, Ojin desperately proclaims his innocence, insisting this is all a misunderstanding. Enraged, Lee Woo-yuk cuts down the man he believes to be his enemy, screaming that it's all bullshit. Bleeding and desperate, the light-haired man realizes with dawning horror that the Black Lion is certain he's the culprit. Thrown back and fearing for his life, he unleashes a desperate counterattack, the Black Shower of Blossoms. Unfazed, Lee Woo-yuk scoffs at the purple magic, confident that such an attack could never touch him. The attack fails, leaving the cloaked man kneeling in exhausted defeat. Lee Woo-yuk presses his advantage, swinging his blade as his target makes a desperate attempt to flee. CSK, Lee Woo-yuk pauses, scanning the area and wondering where his target has vanished. Having created some distance, the cloaked man reappears further down the dark forest path. Grunting in pain, he leaves a trail of blood on the forest floor, marking his escape route. Clutching his wounded chest, the man breathes a sigh of relief, believing he's finally managed to escape. Ha-ha! He slumps against a tree, lamenting his broken body, the use of a precious relic, and the likely defeat of his subordinates. Fuck, fuck, fuck. He rages internally, realizing his sanctuary has been compromised and his people are being killed. Demanding to know who orchestrated this, he panics at the thought of facing his master after such a failure. An idea forms in his mind as he speaks a name, Ashad Khan, contemplating whether to ask him for help. Startled, the man looks up to see Ojin calmly standing above him, mockingly commenting on his sorry state. As Ojin smirks, the cloaked man can only wonder in stunned silence why this person has appeared before him. Leaping down with his spear, Ojin calmly advises him that resistance would be a bad idea. Crackling with blue energy, Ojin poises his spear, promising to end things quietly for his cornered foe. Lee Woo-yuk suddenly intercepts the blow, roaring at Ojin to hurry up and get away from his target. Seizing the opportunity, the cloaked man attempts to push back with a blast of his own dark energy. Li Wuyuk brushes off the attack, mockingly noting his foe is still full of energy, while a stunned Ojin coughs, shocked by his power. Grinning wickedly, Ojin taunts the cloaked man, telling him it's better if he stays still. With his target finally downed, Ojin surveys the scene, disappointed that there aren't any amazing harvests to be found. Ojin realizes his interrogation is failing, as his captive convulses violently whenever questioned about the Dark Star Society, suggesting a powerful curse. Still, he managed to learn one thing. His captive is a low-level official, serving a higher-up known only as the Bailiff. Noting another dead colleague nearby, Ojin decides to hold on to this information, hoping to avoid the Dark Star Society's attention for now. But then, a thought strikes him, and he pauses with a sudden realization. A cunning smile spreads across his face as he examines a card taken from the body, realizing he can use it. He muses that it's not so strange for the heavenly demon, who causes the world's ruin, to be connected to a suspicious organization. Wahaha. He laughs, realizing that as a regressor, he has every reason to interfere with the very organization that will birth his greatest enemy. Looking at the defeated man, Ojin admits their power surpasses his expectations. Even with his plan, he couldn't have won alone. He reflects grimly that if a low-ranking official is this strong, he can only imagine the power of the Bailiff. An image of a powerful figure confirms his fears. The Bailiff might be as strong as a member of the legendary Great Dipper. Deciding he won't get any more information, Ojin approaches the body to finish things and search for loot. As he loots the body, his eyes light up at a glowing blue discovery. Wow. Jackpot, he exclaims. He frantically searches the rest of the body for more treasures, demanding it give him everything. But after a thorough search, he concludes with disappointment that there isn't much else to take. His hand hovers over the man's chest as a purple energy emanates, realizing there is one thing left to take. Ping A system window announces that Black Heavens is absorbing the Strix's stigma, triggering its third enlightenment. Overwhelmed by a surge of purple energy, Ojin feels the power of the enlightenment begin to take hold. A new notification explains that he is now reading the records of Lyra's stigma, though his access is limited. The records plunge him into a vision of a fiery apocalypse, with a massive winged beast flying over the ruins of Seoul Station. In the vision, Lee Shin-yuk tells his brother, Woo-yuk, to find Seon-young while he holds the line. Lee Shin-yuk smiles gently, revealing he knows his brother's secret. You like her. Woo-yuk is left speechless, stunned by his brother's perception. Shin-yuk pushes him away, urging him to hurry, and promising to flee if the fight becomes unwinnable. As his brother turns to face the enemy with his spear, Woo-yuk can only cry out his name in desperation. The vision shows Shin-yuk bravely leaping into battle against a monstrous, horned demon. He flies directly into the gaping, monstrous maw of the beast, spear aimed for the kill. The vision cuts out in a blinding flash of light, leaving the outcome unknown. The vision continues, showing Lee Shin-yuk charging through a fiery, hellish landscape with his spear. He looks up in shock, his face illuminated by the inferno. He stands before a colossal, dripping sludge monster rising from the ruins. Reeling back in horror, he curses his terrible luck. He grits his teeth, wondering what would have happened if he'd known this abomination was sealed beneath Seoul Station. Facing the monster, he thinks to himself that if he had known, he definitely would have been able to prevent this catastrophe. PWA. Back in the present, Ojin violently spits out fluid as the vision ends. He slumps over the dead man's body, sighing that Lee Shin-yuk's memories always leave him feeling awful. System notifications announce that he has inherited Shin-yuk's records, leveled up his spear arts, achieved 3-star enlightenment for Black Heavens, and acquired the ability Eternal Convergence. Ojin looks at the system window, puzzled by the new ability. The system explains his main stigma will now boost his others, leading him to wonder if training Lyra's stigma will improve all of them. A smirk crosses his face as he decides to test his new power immediately. He unleashes a torrent of purple feathers, amazed at the strength of Strix's stigma on its first use. He notes that, while unfamiliar, the stigma's power is incredible, realizing he only needs to focus on training Lyra's stigma from now on. He clenches his fist, thinking it's time to end this, though a part of him finds his own power frightening. He floats down gracefully amidst a swirl of glowing purple feathers. Ah! He lands, and his team leader rushes to his side to help him up. The team leader reports 10 minor casualties and 1 serious injury, adding that another member, Chang Yun, is pursuing the target. Ojin asks where he is, and the team leader confirms it's the scene of the battle. His team leader tells him an ambulance is on its way, but Ojin's expression remains grim. Ojin refuses medical treatment, surprising his team leader, who urges him to rest. Smiling slyly, Ojin admits he's fine and that he intentionally injured himself to make his struggle look convincing. Later, Lee Woo-yuk approaches Ojin in the quiet forest at night. Lee Woo-yuk stops short, a look of realization on his face. He solemnly confirms Ojin's name. As Ojin confirms his identity, he thinks to himself that it's time to finish the act. The scene transitions, showing the two men standing in the moonlit clearing. Lee Woo-yuk looks at the body on the ground and asks if the man said anything before he died. Ojin coolly replies that he said nothing of note. He then adds that he confirmed the man's escape direction, suggesting they can find Lee Shin-yuk that way, all while thinking, let's take him to the stage. Lee Woo-yuk turns and begins to walk away into the darkness. His body trembles as he struggles to say no, denying what he's about to see. He cries out his brother's name in anguish while Ojin watches impassively. Ojin reflects internally that the corpse isn't Lee Shin-yuk but a Dark Star Society member, and that he's completely uninvolved in Shin-yuk's actual death. He recalls the truth. Lee Shin-yuk pushed him into a monster's path to save himself, dying and regressing on his own. Ojin kneels in pain, thinking that if anything, he's the real victim in all of this. Standing alone, looking over a dark valley, he wonders why he feels so guilty. 1 week later, at the Valhalla Guild, Lee Woo-yuk formally greets Ojin, confirming he was looking for him. Seated in his office, Woo-yuk apologizes for their previous, less-than-formal meeting. Ojin notices Woo-yuk's hands trembling, concluding that the emotional wounds haven't healed yet. Lee Woo-yuk states that the first reason he summoned Ojin is to thank him. As Ojin questions this, Woo-yuk explains that without his help, the man who killed his brother would have escaped. Woo-yuk's assistant, Kim Seon-young, opens a briefcase, revealing stacks of cash. Lee Woo-yuk offers the 3 billion won as a reward for catching the culprit, leaving Ojin speechless. Ojin calls the reward excessive, and Woo-yuk calmly agrees. Ojin realizes that Woo-yuk must have a different motive. Lee Woo-yuk asks if it's true that Ojin is a disciple of Polaris, which Ojin confirms. Woo-yuk continues, noting he also heard Ojin was attacked by the Dark Star Society. He reveals the Valhalla Guild's plan to eradicate the Dark Star Society, and formally requests Ojin's help in their crusade. Ojin considers the deal, thinking that with 3 billion won and Lee Woo-yuk's help, he has no reason to refuse the offer. With a slight, confident smile, Ojin simply agrees. Lee Woo-yuk leans forward, asking if Ojin knows anything about the Dark Star Society, to which calmly confirms he does. Lee Woo-yuk presents a white card, questioning if this is what Ojin was referring to. Ojin reveals the card holds the contact information for a Dark Star Society manager named Ashad Khan. At the Association building, Ojin confirms he's investigating the Dark Star Society with Valhalla, who will handle most of the work. He reviews the design for a new weapon, a silver spear enhanced with myrrh crystals and a wired fire function. His colleague clarifies if he means a spear gun, and Ojin confirms it's something similar. Ojin smirks, thinking a little kid will love the new weapon, sparking curiosity from his colleague. His team leader places a hand on his shoulder, agreeing to process the request before asking about the price, making Ojin flinch. Trembling, Ojin realizes an advanced custom weapon like that will be incredibly expensive. The team leader casually states the association will cover the costs, leaving Ojin utterly stunned. He explains that due to Ojin's major contribution to the Valhalla operation, the higher-ups are viewing him favorably. Overcome with emotion, Ojin blushes with tears in his eyes, deeply moved by the gesture. Wham! He excitedly grabs his team leader's face, shouting his name until he's told to calm down. Composed again, Ojin requests the best quality materials, and his team leader confirms the association will cover it. Ojin smiles confidently, pleased with himself and the favorable outcome. Arriving at a house under the moonlight, he announces, "I'm home." Inside, a red-haired girl is focused on her phone in bed, not hearing him until he calls out again, annoyed. Kya, startled, she yells at him, and he questions what she was listening to that made her so unresponsive. She hides under the covers, sensing he's planning something annoying, while he cheerfully heads off to wash up. With her earpiece in, she listens to a report on the Yongsan auction house's upcoming relic exhibit. Her phone screen shows a search for the auction house's relics and a purchased dragon demon item. Who later, on a rooftop, Ojin trains, steadily breathing while holding a handstand. In an office, his team leader announces the appraisal results are in for the relics from the Mokdong Gate. The relic is revealed to be a 3-star rank with mana recovery effects, surprising Ojin. When asked if he will use it, Ojin decides to sell the 3-star relic, along with the Mer crystals. He internally reflects on his good fortune, having expected a low-rank item, and mentally thanks the Dark Star Society. Still amazed, he thinks again how thankful he is to the Dark Star Society for the unexpectedly valuable 3-star relic. The team leader estimates a total sale of 1.8 billion, leaving Ojin completely shocked. Beaming with a ridiculously happy expression, Ojin celebrates, while his team leader looks on, baffled. Calculating his finances, Ojin realizes he's close to his goal and just needs 3 billion more to buy what he wants. Ojin turns to his team leader, asking for one last favor. He makes a specific, ominous request, a map of the sewers below Seoul Station. His strange request for a map of the sewers beneath Seoul Station lingers in the air. Ojin continues his intense handstand training on the rooftop. A beautiful, white-haired woman with golden eyes appears in the air, joyfully spreading her arms. She swoops down toward Ojin, who has collapsed on his back from exhaustion. From afar, the woman, Vega, offers a sheepish apology for her sudden appearance. Vega looks on in surprise, realizing the owner of the Black Heavens is nearby. Ojin sits against a wall, cautiously explaining his theory about the heavenly demon, while deciding to withhold some information. Vega suggests he needs more time to get stronger, but Ojin confidently assures her he has a strategy. Vega wonders aloud about the mysterious constellations of the Dark Star and the era when darkness consumed the stars. Ojin apologizes for not knowing the answers, surprising Vega, as he internally notes that he doesn't know everything. Surprised that even Vega is ignorant on the matter, Ojin resolves to find the answers by confronting the Dark Star Society himself. As Vega floats nearby, Ojin stands and offers to show her how much he's progressed. He takes a deep breath, clutching his new spear as he prepares to demonstrate his power. Blue lightning begins to crackle around him and his spear, gathering immense energy. Hube, with a powerful cry, he unleashes a mighty swing, channeling the crackling energy through his weapon. He unleashes his attack, crying out its name, Spear Lightning. The sun shines brightly over a sprawling cityscape, marking a new moment. On the rooftop, a tired Ojin sits beside his spear while Vega floats nearby, asking how his demonstration was. Vega looks on in stunned silence, stammering as she tries to comprehend what she just witnessed. Ojin smiles innocently, feigning ignorance as he asks if he did something wrong. Vega asks in disbelief how he managed to focus lightning in 3 places at once: his feet and his spear. Ojin casually explains that he just tried it, and it worked, admitting it was a little difficult at first. Vega remains speechless, her mind racing as she tries to process his impossible feat. Flustered, she questions how this is possible, recalling that his memories of Lyra's stigma were supposed to be blurry. She explains that without clear memories, using the stigma so quickly should be impossible, leaving a confused Ojin to wonder what's going on. Ojin chuckles internally, pleased that his secret ability is making Vega believe he's simply a prodigy. Feigning confusion, he asks if his skill is truly that surprising, which only leaves Vega more shocked. Reeling back in shock, Vega exclaims that the stigma of Lyra is a power that humans can barely handle. As she explains the vast difference in power levels, Ojin is distracted by his phone ringing. While Vega asks if he's listening, Ojin sees an incoming call from his team leader, Han Junmin. Outside the Special Disaster Security Management Association building, Ojin receives his requested items from his team leader. Carrying his new silver spear, Ojin walks confidently through the city streets. With Vega floating above, Ojin affirms his satisfaction with the new weapon. He recalls being told a kid crafted the exceptional spear and makes a mental note to compliment the mysterious creator. As Vega notes, the spear will be a threatening weapon. Ojin smirks and hints that there's more to it. A tiny, curious Vega sits atop his head as he looks on with a playful expression. Whoosh. To Vega's horror, Ojin suddenly leaps off the tall building, sending her into a panic. He plummets through the air, spear in hand, between the towering skyscrapers of the city. Vega realizes he's devised a new way to travel, and Ojin laughs triumphantly as he falls. Firing a wire from his spear, Ojin swings through the city, realizing he's bluffing his way through a technique he can't actually use yet. As he masterfully swings onward, Vega asks if he's going home, but he declares he has other plans. With Vega back and new gear in hand, Ojin resolves that it's time to stop waiting. He declares their destination is Soul Station, soaring towards a fiery chasm where a monster lurks. At a supply shop, Ojin is told his total comes to over 7 million won for several potions. He jokingly calls the shopkeeper a thief before catching himself, as a system window cheekily announces, "Lame excuses, level 3. Ojin and the shopkeeper begin to haggle over the price, with Ojin's math being particularly questionable. Leaving the shop, Ojin regrets his negotiation skills, while Vega observes his surprising determination when it comes to money. Vega apologizes for being unable to help with his financial troubles, looking genuinely concerned. Ojin reassures her that she's helpful enough, privately acknowledging the financial benefits of being her priest. Preparations complete, he stands before a dark, descending sewer entrance and announces it's time to go. In the stone tunnels below, he explains to Vega that while he doesn't know the exact location, he's certain they're in the right area. He confidently states their target is currently sealed, and Vega realizes his plan is to defeat it preemptively. While the monster would be deadly if active, Ojin thinks it's just a sandbag while sealed, then regrets not buying boots for the trek. Disgusted by the sewer stench, he decides against using a certain stigma and addresses Vega as "my child." Vega senses an ominous presence ahead, and Ojin pauses, shining his light into the darkness. He discovers a wall blocking their path, which he notes is supposed to be a dead end on his map. Through a dark archway, they sense a familiar yet different energy from the cave before. Vega describes the ominous feeling as a sharp, stabbing sensation, which puts Ojin on high alert. He suspects the energy is related to the Dark Star and the recent appearance of mutant myrrh crystals. With his spear's tip glowing, Ojin resolves to investigate the strange phenomenon ahead. He stares forward in utter shock, stunned by the unexpected sight before him. Beyond the wall lies a cavern of pulsating red flesh, guarded by two lizard-like humanoid creatures. The two muscular reptilian creatures let out a low growl, their yellow eyes glowing menacingly. Ojin calmly faces them, confirming his suspicions about finding mutant creatures in this hidden place. As one of the creatures shrieks and leaps to attack, Ojin readies his spear, seeing them as a perfect warm-up. A confident smirk spreads across Ojin's face as he prepares to engage the mutants in battle. The two reptilian monsters grab Aha's arms, pulling him forward with immense force. With a sharp clang, the tip of Ojin's spear intercepts a powerful punch from one of the creatures. Confident despite the situation, Ojin thinks it won't work, as blue lightning crackles around him. Kiag! One of the mutants shrieks in agony as it's engulfed by a powerful electric shock. Ojin inwardly notes the key advantage of his new weapon. Unlike Lee Shinhyuk's, this spear can be completely electrified. He stands calmly as the electrified creature dissolves into shadow before him. From the dark cavern ahead, 3 more reptilian mutants emerge, their yellow eyes glowing with malice. Gyag, one of the new mutants, screams as they charge towards Ojin, who readies his spear for the next wave. Smirking, Ojin clenches his fist and thinks, "well," before lunging into the fray. Kua. Surrounded by a flurry of attacks, Ojin stands his ground against the charging beasts. 2 of the reptilian mutants coordinate their attack, lunging forward with menacing glares. Surrounded by crackling lightning, Ojin taunts them, thinking that even with some intelligence, they're no match for him. A torrent of blue electricity surges through his spear, gathering immense power. He unleashes his attack, crying out its name, Spear Lightning. Caught in the blast, a mutant lets out a silent cry as it's consumed by the electrical discharge. Ojin smiles, satisfied with the powerful result of his new technique. KRR. The 2 remaining creatures growl, stumbling as arcs of electricity still course through their bodies. You've. Suddenly, the creatures overpower him, slamming him to the ground with a painful thud. Pinned to the ground by strange black bindings, Ojin looks up in shock, wondering what they are. A new, horned reptilian creature appears, licking its lips as Ojin realizes it must be a champion. Kuu. The reptilian champion lets out a low, menacing growl, flexing its powerful physique. Kia. The champion shrieks and leaps forward, its claws extended for a killing blow. As his necklace glows, Ojin quickly commands it to recover the wire. Now free, he determines the wire won't be enough and unleashes another powerful torrent of lightning. Ki. The champion recoils with a scream as the powerful electrical attack hits it head-on. All around, the lesser mutants lie defeated on the cavern floor. Kaya. Undeterred, the reptilian champion lunges at Ojin again with a furious roar. Ojin meets its charge with a confident, knowing smirk. A massive explosion of blue lightning erupts, engulfing the entire area in a blinding flash. Hube, with a powerful cry, Ojin thrusts his electrified spear directly at the lunging champion. The champion is completely overwhelmed by the massive electrical blast from Ojin's final attack. Splattered with blood, Ojin smirks, thinking to himself that the fight was far too easy. Standing over the fallen monsters, he calmly declares that it's time to collect the loot. He finds a small black myrrh crystal as expected, noting that he's becoming quite used to finding these abnormal variants. Vega appears, asking what he knows about the ominous crystal, but he admits that this type is completely new to him. He concludes there must be a link between these mutants and the Dark Star, recalling a previous monster encounter. His thoughts drift to the impossibility of so many mutant monsters appearing by sheer coincidence. He realizes their appearance must be connected to the gate, containing the Dark Star's relic. Deciding to press on for the valuable crystals, Ojin ignores his bad feeling about the situation. A sly look crosses his face as he remembers a crucial fact. He can also absorb the Dark Star's power. As he walks forward, Vega suddenly stops, sensing something ahead. The fleshy red tunnel opens into a new, brighter chamber shrouded in mist. Emerging into a massive stone hall, Ojin remarks on its surprising spaciousness. He stands alone in the vast, empty chamber, looking ahead and wondering what he's found. He instantly recognizes the sight before him, the very monster from Lee Shin-yuk's memories. Before him sits a massive, dormant, sludge-like creature with a large, dark crystal embedded in its form. As Vega identifies the sealed monster, Ojin confirms it's the beast that destroyed Soul Station in his first life. He realizes something is off. The monster is small, only half the size he saw in the memories. A flashback to the creature rampaging through a burning city confirms his suspicion, and he understands the implication. Looking closely, he notes with surprise that the monster's myrrh crystal is also significantly smaller. Deciding to test the dormant creature, Ojin resolves to attack it first. His initial probe leaves a small mark on the monster's slimy flesh, but it shows no reaction, just as he expected. A confident smirk crosses Ojin's face as he thinks that a monster that can't even move will be a piece of cake. He fires a wire from his spear, swinging himself up onto the massive, immobile creature. Hiya! With a fierce grin and a powerful cry, he prepares to strike the monster's body. Hup! He swings his brightly glowing spear, ready to treat the beast as a training dummy. He laughs maniacally, excited to use the monster as a stress-relieving punching bag for profit, and mockingly thanks Lee Shin-hyuk for the opportunity. As Ojin stands atop the beast with Vega at his side, he suddenly pauses with a confused, "Huh?" Vega asks if he also saw it move, but he dismisses it as a mistake. Monster's body suddenly begins to tremble violently, throwing a shocked Ojin off balance. A deep, guttural roar echoes through the cavern. Stunned, Ojin wonders why the supposedly sealed creature is moving. The beast lets out a piercing shriek that gives Ojin chills just from hearing it. He grits his teeth, wondering how to defeat it now, and recalling that Lee Shin-yuk claimed he could have stopped it. Ojin realizes Lee Shin-yuk was just bluffing, comparing his claim to someone vowing they could ace an exam if they could only turn back time. Vega asks what a regressor is and if he should run, but Ojin flatly refuses. He reassures Vega that he expected this, but his inner thoughts reveal his terror as he silently begs for help, admitting he's dead before resolving to end it quickly. The sludge-like monster begins to move, its massive arm flexing with terrifying power. Ojin readies his spear, his expression turning to shock as the monster prepares to attack. Q-Herc? He is sent flying by a powerful blow from the now active monster. He's completely stunned by the creature's unbelievable speed. He clenches his teeth, bracing for the overwhelming force. A massive hand swats him through the air with ease. After crashing into the water, Ojin quickly rights himself, sensing imminent danger. Whoa! The monster roars, its massive, sharp-toothed maw lunging towards him. Annoyed, Ojin shouts back at the beast, telling it to stop screaming. He leaps into the air, narrowly dodging another attack from the thrashing monster. Landing nimbly on the creature's massive arm, he uses its body as a path to advance. He prepares to launch a counterattack from his new position on the monster's arm. Ojin loses his footing and slips on the creature's slimy surface. He lands on the creature's arm and begins sprinting up its length. A single thought flashes through his mind: run. Having scaled the monster, Ojin lies on its back, thinking that he has only one target in mind. He leaps from the monster's back, aiming for the black myrrh crystal on its head. Wah! Fangs bared. Ojin roars as he channels a massive surge of lightning. Crying out for the bastard to die, he aims his lightning-charged attack directly at the black myrrh crystal. A system window notifies him that his Thunderbolt skill has leveled up from LV1 to LV2. Whew! Believing the fight is over, Ojin breathes a sigh of relief and declares it dead. His victory is cut short as a massive fist suddenly closes in on him. Kua. The monster lets out a pained roar as its crystal glows, clearly not defeated. Ojin looks on in utter disbelief, cursing under his breath. He stares in shock, wondering how it's still alive after taking his full-powered attack. Grah! The monster roars again, its dark crystal pulsing with ominous energy. Ojin is caught and crushed in the monster's massive hand. A brilliant explosion of blue lightning erupts from within the creature's grasp. Now free and glowing with power, Ojin aims at the monster's head and shouts, "Take a piece of this." Gua lightning strikes the monster's crystal, causing it to scream in agony. Kyuherk. The resulting explosion sends Ojin tumbling helplessly through the air. The massive creature thrashes in pain, its huge body beginning to collapse. Huffing for breath, Ojin grits his teeth, realizing he doesn't have enough firepower to finish the job. As the monster flails, Ojin realizes his current attacks are insufficient to defeat the rampaging beast. Gritting his teeth, he resolves to create a single blow even more powerful than spear lightning. He quickly fires a wire from his bracer, latching onto the monster. Grr! The wire digs into the creature's flesh, and with a mighty roar, it swings its arm wildly. Erg! Ojin is violently yanked into the air by the force of the monster's swing. A clever idea strikes him as he decides to use the monster's own momentum against it. Yelling, "Slide!" He expertly uses the wire to glide down the creature's massive arm. He skillfully surfs along the monster's arm, closing the distance to his target. He realizes with triumph that the monster's vulnerable neck is now completely exposed. Landing perfectly on its back, Ojin stabilizes himself with his spear for the final attack. With unwavering confidence, he believes he is the only one who can deliver the necessary, all-powerful blow. He knows simply pouring in power won't work. He must stretch and condense his mana like drawing a bowstring. Leaping into the air, Ojin prepares to unleash all his stored energy in one decisive strike. A system notification announces his lightning skill has leveled up to level 4, and he has acquired depth charge level 1. A massive explosion of blue lightning erupts from the point of impact on the monster's back. Hup! Landing squarely on the beast, Ojin drives his electrified fist into its flesh. His face tense with anticipation, he desperately wonders if his powerful attack was successful. Grah. To his dismay, the monster lets out an agonized roar, still very much alive. In utter shock, he curses his failure as the creature thrashes, screaming for it to stop. The scene suddenly shifts to a city street, where this same monster roars terrifyingly at a crowd of people. A man with a ponytail screams in terror, alerting everyone to the monster's presence. The slimy beast looms over a young boy who has fallen to the ground in its path. Hike, the terrified child, lets out a short, sharp gasp of fear. As the monster's maw opens wide, the crying boy pleads for someone to help him. Just in time, Ojin appears, deflecting the monster's attack and shielding the child with his spear. While shocked onlookers stare, Ojin sternly tells the boy to get to safety immediately. He grimly accepts that he must protect the people, a task he'd normally ignore. He reasons that with Vega watching, he must maintain his heroic image, as she believes he's destined to save the world. When Vega offers her blessing, Ojin confidently reassures her that he is okay. He observes the stunned monster, noting his attack worked, and now he just needs to finish it. Stumbling with exhaustion, he admits to himself that he is the weaker one and should be begging for her help. A wild, crazed grin spreads across his face as he finds the life-or-death struggle exhilarating. He relishes the thrill from his new depth charge skill, comparing it to the joy of perfect harmony. He muses that any borrowed power would vanish like sand, along with the genuine thrill he's feeling now. Clenching his fist, he resolves to win with his own strength and not let this feeling fade. Grrr. The monster trembles with residual electricity, slowly recovering from the attack. Ojin smirks at the beast, taunting it by asking if the attack hurt. With a menacing grin, he leaps forward, promising to make the monster feel a whole lot more pain. The monster retaliates, swinging its massive, slimy hand toward him. Ojin fluidly dodges and weaves between the monster's clumsy but powerful strikes. With intense focus, he narrowly avoids another crushing blow, analyzing his opponent's moves. He notes with satisfaction that he can finally perceive the monster's attack patterns. Feeling his own power rising instead of fading, he grins, ready for his counterattack. Now it's my turn, he declares, seizing the opening. He stabs his spear deep into the monster, causing an eruption of black blood and blue lightning. As the beast shrieks, Ojin warns that this is just the beginning and braces himself. He repeatedly unleashes depth charge, channeling overwhelming electrical power directly into the creature's core. He becomes a conduit of pure lightning, driving his empowered spear deeper into the monster. Cool. Overwhelmed by the continuous assault, the gigantic monster stumbles backward, severely weakened. With a triumphant and wild expression, Ojin taunts the retreating beast, asking where it's running off to. Yup! Gritting his teeth, Ojin strains to unleash one final, desperate burst of power. He's pulled violently through the air, barely managing to hold on as the massive beast thrashes. With fierce determination, he resolves to push his magic to its absolute limit, his fist glowing brightly. He decides to push beyond his limits for one more attack, channeling an overwhelming amount of lightning. As his power surges, system windows announce his depth charge skill has rapidly advanced from LV1 to LV3. The massive monster finally twitches and collapses, defeated on the city street. Vega appears before him, her expression filled with concern as she asks if he is okay. Giving a confident thumbs up and a wide grin, Ojin cheerfully tells Vega he told her to wait for him. Internally, however, he admits he wasn't okay at all as his legs tremble from exhaustion. Vega pouts, scolding him for taking so long and worrying her, while a smirking Ojin thinks she's cute but is glad he won. He casually dismisses her concerns, his expression turning serious as he surveys the surrounding city street. Whoa! Onlookers erupt in cheers, thanking him for saving them while snapping photos with their phones. A bead of sweat runs down his cheek as he smirks, realizing it will be hard to hide his identity now. A reporter with gray hair, introducing himself as Go Guangyun, asks Ojin which guild he belongs to. Ojin smiles and claims to be a member of the association, thinking a good public image will make it easier to manipulate others. The crowd murmurs in surprise at his affiliation, with one person shouting that he's awesome. Playing the part, Ojin humbly tells the crowd he was only doing what he was supposed to. Vega, beaming with pride, loudly asks the crowd if they got a good look at her child, their hero and savior. No, she declares with a fierce glare, demanding to know how they could thank their savior with mere words. She points accusingly at the crowd, demanding they bring money for her child, as Ojin internally begs her to stop. The onlookers hesitate for a moment before agreeing he deserves payment and begin pulling out their wallets. Vega holds up a single banknote, proudly asking Ojin for his opinion. Ta-da! She triumphantly presents the money she has collected for him. Ojin is left utterly speechless and dumbfounded by her actions. Sometime later, a tan-skinned man with dark spiky hair informs Ojin that the internet is buzzing about him. The man explains that 16 guilds have already sent donations to the association, shocking Ojin that it only took one day. He continues, revealing that the news of Ojin being Polaris' apostle has also spread everywhere. Ojin calmly accepts the news, thinking it was always a temporary secret, while the man apologizes for the leak. Now ready to cash in on his title, Ojin is caught off guard when the man brings up an article about him demanding money. Ojin winces, assuming he's being called a ripoff, and admitting he avoided the news since Vega was the one who demanded payment. The man calls it a divine move, confusing Ojin, who then gets even more confused by the mention of tsundere. Showing him a phone, the man explains that Ojin's quote about not rescuing the child became a hot topic. He adds that the news even fabricated a story about Ojin giving his coat to the boy, which Ojin silently denies. The tale continues with him supposedly whispering, "Run away," making Ojin internally curse the media for writing fiction. The man concludes that asking for money was interpreted as proof he was only in it for a reward, leaving Ojin speechless. Ojin covers his mouth, flustered by the irony of being the victim of a scam when he's usually the scammer. The tan-skinned man sits across from him, looking on calmly. The man mentions that the incident also caused a stir in paradise, a name that immediately grabs Ojin's attention. With narrowed eyes, Ojin realizes this is the true purpose of his visit. Deciding to handle business first, he places his hand on a box and says it's time to get to the point. He opens the box to reveal the myrrh crystals he collected, asking the man how much they're worth. The man picks up a small crystal from the box and inspects it closely. He informs a surprised Ojin that the value of myrrh crystals from mutants has recently dropped. The man explains the mutant population has increased tenfold, increasing the crystal supply, causing Ojin to wonder if it's related to the Dark Star's constellations. However, the man holds up the two largest, highest quality crystals and estimates their value at 400 million. With a serious expression, Ojin requests to sell them as soon as possible, within a few days. The man explains that will be difficult, as the fluctuating market for mutant crystals makes them hard to sell quickly. Ojin remains silent, his expression unreadable, as he processes the information. He then makes a counteroffer, asking for 300 million up front, letting the man keep the rest, which surprises him. The tan-skinned man gasps that they'll be taking 100 million, but Ojin coolly tells him that's fine. The man thinks this is strange, remembering Ojin has always been obsessed with money, as a wolf-like figure clutches a banknote. Ojin asks if he can do it, and the man readily agrees, promising to send 300 million by noon the next day. As Ojin prepares to leave, the man stops him, saying he has something to give him. He places an ornate box on the table, explaining it's what Ojin mentioned before, and he's prepared the best available. The tan-skinned man sits back, adding that he has one more thing to give him. He presents a business card, a certificate for the association's special commissioners, complete with Ojin's photo. A vision of a suited-up Ojin appears as text explains that special commissioners have investigation rights and are an exception to the association's poor reputation. Staring at the card, Ojin admits this is unexpected since he just started working with them, but the man says it just proves his value to the executives. The scene shifts to Ojin, standing alone on a sidewalk, watching pedestrians pass by. Wiping his brow, he sighs in relief, realizing that with the incoming funds, he has finally managed to collect all the money he needs. With a determined gaze, he thinks to himself that now he just needs to take the next step. A phone displays a news alert about the awakened Quan Ojin gaining attention after the incident at Seoul Station. Elsewhere, a long-haired redhead lies in bed, shielding her eyes as she reads an article about the incident. She sits up as the article reports that netizens have nicknamed the new hero Lightning Wolf and are praising him endlessly. The newsfeed moves on, announcing the confirmed list of items for the upcoming Yongsan auction. The report lists several high-level relics, including the 6-star Dragon Demon Eyes, which will be on display. The red-haired woman grips her phone tightly, her focus captured by the mention of the Dragon Demon Eyes. Kaya! She screams in shock as Vega suddenly appears beside her, asking if she's finally awake. Startled, the woman sees Vega walking away and points out that Ojin left his necklace behind. She questions Vega about breaking rules by staying on Earth, but Vega calmly replies that a few hours a day is fine. Now perched on the headboard, Vega says there's something she wants to ask, and the woman listens intently. Vega shares her concern, stating she believes her child, Ojin, is obsessed with money. She asks the red-haired woman if she knows the reason, but the woman looks away in thought, remaining silent. The red-haired woman finally reveals his goal. It's to get to a place called Paradise. She explains Paradise is a pristine, monster-free sanctuary, and Ojin needs 1 billion for the residence permit. Smiling wistfully, she says they'll find happiness there, as a surprised Vega asks if such a place exists. The woman confirms it's managed by Chan Sangil of the Great Dipper and his guild Heaven's Favors, calling it the safest place imaginable. Vega looks thoughtful, realizing this must be why he is so desperately saving money. The red-haired woman then asks Vega if she knows what Ojin's dream was when he was a child. In a flashback, a young, bruised Ojin sits alone, his dream being simply to have a house to call his own. The woman covers her face, explaining that even such a simple dream felt impossible. Lying in bed, she recalls how that simple happiness always felt miles away for them. Vega listens quietly, her expression unreadable. The woman explains that the orphanage director beat them daily, with Ojin taking the brunt of the abuse to protect her. She reveals that she was originally the director's main target, shown as a small, terrified girl cowering on the floor. A flashback shows a young Ojin creating a diversion, shouting about a fire in the kitchen to help her escape. Vega sadly asks if that's why the director started hitting Ojin even more, and the woman quietly confirms it. With a resigned look, she tells Vega that no matter what, Ojin has only ever wanted that one thing. A memory surfaces of a younger, happier Ojin, waving to a long-haired boy. The other boy turns back to look at Ojin, his expression serious and distant. This scene returns to the present day, showing Ojin walking away on a city street. Looking out her window, the red-haired woman thinks with sorrow that once he achieves his dream, he will be separated from her.